Is the camera guy ready?
Yes.
Okay, so this goes in place.
Well,
This.
we're going to have a monitor here shortly, but at 7 o'clock we're on.
All right. Good evening, everybody. This is the Town Council Workshop, March 16th, 2005. Just to remind everybody, we're being broadcast live on television on Channel 13 now. Switched from Channel 22 to Channel 13. Apparently, Durham had contractual right to Channel 22, so they switched us. No difference though. We have a revised agenda, just to make sure everybody in the council has it, and it is posted, I believe, out front. And we have quite a few things to discuss tonight, and therefore I plan not to take any public comment on the items because most of these items have already been commented on by the public. We're not going to be taking action on a lot of them. It's just discussion. First one, the relocation of the polling place is the first item, and we will have to act on that tonight. And we did discuss it at the last meeting and got informed.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilor Wolfenhamel? Then Councilor Glennon?
I move that we maintain the polling place as a town hall here.
I'll second that.
Okay, so, all right. Councilor Wolfenhamel made a motion that we maintain the town hall as the location of the polling place, I'm assuming for the May elections this May? Okay. Councilor Caprioli?
I just have questions regarding, have the items that were at, I guess that were a problem, the deficiencies been corrected?
Administrator Dixon?
What we'll have to do, the responsibility for designating the polling place is the town council, so that's in your purview. At this point in time, what we will do is attempt to work with the town moderator to address everything that can be addressed, okay? So everything that's physically capable of being addressed between now and the election will be done.
Okay.
There might be a few items that we'll be out of compliance on, but
And when you say there might be a few items we would be out of compliance on, if we are, does that make our election
null and void.
illegal? Okay, it's no different than any other election then, as long as we're trying to come into compliance?
Yes, I feel that's a safe statement.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Glennon?
What I wanted to, that's a good question that Councilor Caprioli had, because I spent probably today, Al can contest to this, about 2 hours at the town hall today. I've also been in conversation with Bud, I can't remember his last name, you probably know Al, from the
Finch.
Attorney General's office. Huh?
Finch?
Finch, yeah. Talking with him. And I also spent some time with the town clerk and some time today with Ms. Brusso of the school department, and really kind of get a sense to, how is this going to impact them? Their big concern, again, they're willing to go whatever the rules or regulations are, but it's a major impact to them of getting stuff down to and from, back and forth, all of that. And they both basically felt everything could be done right here, as well as I had an initial conversation this afternoon with another town employee who also indicated, logistically wise, it's better to have it right here. So what I've done is I've asked Ms. Brusso to do a layout of what they had done for the polling for the school, and they were able to get all 40 booths in with no problem. And part of what they did, though, was unique, is that they've located the handicaps right by the door as you come in here, and the booths are going around like this and coming around. And one of my concerns was the videotaping of, like, tonight's meeting. Would that be a problem? And they assured me absolutely it was not a problem. And I think some of the things they did really well was where we used to have the tables up here for the cookies and everything else is where the tallies are now, and the moderator is over here, and they can see everything that's going down in the aisles. So that kind of, by rearranging it, and I've also asked them to pull the figures of where we are since the town elections. Becky signed off on this today for me, going back to 1998 to 2004, and there seemed to be a consistent pattern. Back in 1998, there was 1,047 people that voted on the town side. 2004, there was 1,016. So that really hasn't increased dramatically. And the same goes for the school. Back in 1998, they had 1,103. Unfortunately, in 2005, they only had 641. In addition to all of that, there is a video on the website of the Attorney General, which I haven't had a chance to view, but it indicates that there is some flexibility in regards to the handicap accessible area, which I believe Ms. Howard was one of her concerns. Now, after speaking with Bud, he's indicated, as well as the video has indicated, that there is some flexibility there. What the town would have to do, and I'm not sure if it's coming from the chairman or the town administrator, I didn't get clearance on that, and I wish I had, is a letter would need to be sent to the Attorney General stating that because of the physical layout and the handicap accessibility, where it is located, that it's not physically able to restructure that because of the way the building is. And all they would need is a letter from the town indicating that, and that should suffice. I mean, they're not going to have the final say on that, but those are some of the things we can do to augment some of the problems we're having. So, you know, I don't want to say Ms. Howard is so strict, but she's going by what the rules are saying, and that's what she's trying to do. But again, there is some flexibility there. And unfortunately, she's not here tonight. She had to take a trip somewhere. But, you know, I do respect her for doing what she's done. However, there is some flexibility. That's basically what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Any more comments or questions? Is there any financial risk?
At this point, I would say no.
Okay. Please call a roll on the motion to keep the
Did you indicate that there was a second by me?
Yep.
Oh, you did.
the May elections at the town hall.
Councilor Caprioli.
Aye.
Councilor Morrison.
Aye.
Councilor Will Hamel.
Aye.
Councilor Glennon.
Aye.
Councilor Foster.
Aye.
Councilor Hart.
Aye.
Motion carries.
You second that.
Yeah.
Elderly exemptions is the next agenda item. This is on the agenda. We recently raised the exemption amount that could be exempted from the property tax. This is to raise the income levels, and the town staff has compiled information about other communities for us to evaluate and compare. And we have to act on this before April 1st in order for abatements to be able to be done. So that's why it's on tonight. It's somewhat short notice, but we have discussed this in the past, so hopefully the council will feel ready to act on moving forward with this in some way. Administrator Dixon?
Yes, this was on an earlier agenda. This survey was provided as of January 11th of all the surrounding communities. The council did act in January on the issues as far as the exemption levels themselves. We said we could defer to a later date the income adjustments and the asset adjustments. Now, I have a little complication today, but it's still up to the town council. I thought we could go ahead and have this effective April 1st. Our assessor has asked me today to have you take into consideration that this is the year of our certification, and he has all his records in good form right now for the state assessing office to complete the inspection. Would cause him a little difficulty at this point in time. He's asked if you would consider, instead of making it effective April 2005, April 2006. But that vote is yours. I kind of would like to see it effective April of 2005.
What did he mean? What's the extra steps he has to do?
Well,
You talking like a couple days of work or a couple weeks of work?
he's probably talking about 20 to 30 hours of work that he would have to do additionally.
So, if just to make it clear what we're specifically doing, and I received a phone call from somebody this about a week ago, saying that our current income levels for eligibility were too low, and that even Dover was at, I think, $35,000,
I heard the same thing.
which I thought that was funny that we were being compared to Dover. But the person was very hopeful that we'd be able to act on it. So he's recommending that we increase the income level from 24,627 to 35,000 for a single person, and the asset level from 50,000 to $100,000, and for a married person or a married couple, $28,068 to $45,000. So if we act on this tonight, and we have to do a specific resolution at the next meeting to vote on it?
No, you can actually just make a motion tonight, a simple motion. We have all the documentation, it'd be entered into the record, and we would complete the work. If you wait until April 1st, then that's going to delay Andy's work even a little further, because he'll hesitate to see which way you go. So I think
The
it's-
one thing is, I do want to tell the council, I will be asking the council for a special meeting between now and April 5th or whenever the next meeting is, because I don't think we're going to get through the whole agenda tonight. And one of the particular matters on the agenda, we do need to act on before April 5th, and it wasn't adequately described in the agenda to be acted on, in fairness to everybody. So we could discuss this and move it to that special meeting, assuming the council agrees to have a special meeting maybe next Wednesday night for an hour or so. Not a long agenda, trust me, I won't pack it.
1 hour?
Are we gonna hold them to it?
What's that like?
So, can I ask a question?
It's shorter than a movie. Counselor Caprielli.
Are we, because I was gonna make a motion on this, but do you want to decide if we're gonna have a meeting? Next Wednesday night would be really bad for me, but.
It could be the following Wednesday night as well.
And then that might be
Next
two meetings.
four,
to-
because I'm doing that course at the high school.
Oh, yeah.
that's our regular meeting anyway, isn't it?
No, we have 2 Wednesdays because it's a
Yeah.
5 Wednesday month.
Candles,
Everybody was looking forward to that, eh?
candles, calendars are coming in handy, huh?
I mean, I could do a Tuesday, when I just,
Okay, so,
So I just
well,
don't- what are
if
you
the
talking
council feels comfortable moving forward with this, it's fine. I just wanted to give an option in case
I
people were
had
concerned
one
about it.
question before I made the motion.
Okay, Counselor Caprielli, then Counselor Glennon.
The,
I was first.
No, you weren't. She had 101 seconds.
Okay.
If we make this retroactive, is that money already available? I mean, I don't understand
It
what
would
that.
start April 1st of this year versus April 1st of 2006. so
Because
it's
it
not really
says
retro.
April 1st, 2004.
That,
That's for the exemptions on the level that they can be exempted from on property value. We're talking about the second part of the page, the income. So in order to be eligible, you have to have certain income criteria. Like,
Oh,
you
and it
can't
would be
make
their
more
income
than,
for 2000, I get it, okay.
so you can't make
yeah.
more than $24,627 right now.
Okay,
And
all right.
have assets of $50,000 other than your house.
And I'll make the motion, but I'll hold off, because Dana had a
Okay.
question. I think.
Counselor,
Oh, my only question is, Al, I don't understand what Andy's talking about. If we don't do this, I guess, on April, what is it, 1st of this year, by law, RSA, whatever, it has to go into effect on April 1st of next year?
well,
Could we not say, move it to May 1st?
no.
Oh,
The application deadline is set by state as April 1st of each year for the elderly exemptions. So that's why the April date is important. The only thing Andy is saying, he has got his paperwork all together for the certification. It's going to be some additional work for him at this point. However, he did say it's a council decision, and I really feel, because I get very few calls, and I mentioned to Brian that I got quite a few calls. Is this going to be on the agenda? You promised it.
right.
And when I say quite a few, better than a half a dozen.
So we're not risking anything by doing it now
No.
versus postponing it until,
We're just risking Andy having to work a little harder here to get his paperwork refinished, redone for the regroup for the
well, just
certification.
bring him more coffee. He'll stay awake. Okay, well, thank you. I guess I'm ready to act on this.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the elderly exemptions as suggested by Andy Blaze, the tax assessor, in his memo presented to us here this evening.
just for the record, that would be increasing it for a single person from $24,627 to $35,000 for the income, for the asset level from $50,000 to $100,000, for married people from $28,068 to $45,000, and for asset from $50,000 to $100,000. Is there a second?
Second.
Counselor Foster seconds.
How many people do we think this will affect, Al, do you know?
We did an estimate. Last year, the change we made in the veterans exemption cost us about $115,000. This adjustment should cost us around $33,000.
We have a sense of how many people impact?
No, I don't have the individual count. And that's going to be a little bit indeterminate now that we've raised those limits.
Right.
But our guesstimate is that it's going to cost us an additional $33,000.
So possibly, hopefully this is going to impact, I guess in my mind, more so the elderly to help them, as well as people who are in itself low income too. Right?
Well, this is just elderly.
This is just
Elderly and
elderly.
disabled.
Okay,
Yeah, but
Okay.
basically elderly.
good. I'm glad something's going to help them.
Mr. Fitzgibbon, I'm going to let you speak briefly.
Well, I appreciate it, but what I don't appreciate is, I don't have any problem with the way you're conducting the meeting.
Okay.
First time you've ever laid eyes up the back of the room. That's beside the point, okay? The only thing I was gonna call your attention to was the fact that I don't think any of those microphones are on. Are they on? Because you can't be heard up here, and I think there are other people up here that concur with me. I couldn't hear
Okay.
anything you said.
Okay.
I don't know what, well, wait a minute, let me finish, please,
Okay, well,
all right?
I'm
Is
just
that
saying,
okay?
don't get mad at me. We didn't realize the
What's the
microphones
attitude?
weren't on.
I am a little excited. Everybody in this room knows me for a lot longer than you, so they know my temperament. Let me tell you something. I don't know whether you said that the single exemption was increased to 35,000 or 28,000, and quite frankly, I don't know at this point whether a married couple has any more increase in what they can earn.
All right,
If you would please let the audience know what's going on.
I will repeat it.
Another thing is, you said that you were not going to allow anyone to speak. I am not being disruptive. I appreciate the fact that you let me stand up here.
Yeah.
You did have public comment on the polling place. On this, you had very little on the polling place. In fact, I went home early from the last meeting and saw it on the television. That's the only thing I saw about public commentary. I think there was only 2 people. That's beside the fact. All I would like to know now is exactly what are the figures, what are the parameters of income and so forth, and I am a little bit disturbed by with what information I have received from different people that I considered reliable, that this is now, instead of considering the numbers of people that are going to turn 65 in the ensuing year, the numbers of people that are aged that are going to be affected by this more so than one employee, that suddenly we have a proposition, which incidentally is now up for vote. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I don't like that either. I don't think anybody else here likes to see things governed that way. You can go ahead and do it, but I just want to tell you that I don't think it's right.
Thank you, Mr.
And I believe
Fitzgibbon.
if I interpreted or heard what little I did here with regard to
Please.
yeah, his proposition, I mean, if he has to do 30 hours more work, okay, and instead of telling everybody what the cost is going to be for people of which I happen to be one, okay, and I can give you 10 or 15 different reasons I've prepared here if you want me to. I can hand them out, or you can listen to me go on and on for another hour.
Nope.
Showing you, well, that's not very democratic either.
Mr. Fitzgibbon, I've given you the opportunity to speak,
Now, the
and now
point-
you're going a little bit too far.
I'm not. The point I'm saying is,
You are.
if you're going to defer to one employee,
We're not.
Okay.
Let me restate the motion so you can understand what we're doing, because I think you're going to be in support of it. The motion is to increase the levels to $35,000 for single people, to $45,000 for couples, and to increase the asset levels to $100,000, effective April 1st this year.
don't want to be misunderstood. I don't have a problem with that. You know why? That's the first time tonight that I heard you say $45,000.
Okay, and we didn't know the amplification wasn't working,
Oh, I
so
think you ought to be aware of that.
How do we check
we
that?
appreciate that.
How do we check that?
We were going to work on it right now.
Okay.
It's,
Scott, hold on.
Amplification for you.
sure.
There's no. The amplification, right now, we're still working on the system. We're being picked up very well via the television set at this point. We just are in the growing stages right now, and there's a lot of technicians working on it, and we haven't got the amplification in the room fit yet. So I guess we'll all have to just speak up, but certainly we're being picked up well when you speak into the mic on the TV at this point.
Okay, so, can you help us on the amplification?
You right here? It's working now?
Check. Is that coming through the microphone above you guys?
You are now.
Are now?
You are now.
Well, so you guys can hear it. Okay. All right. And we'll just make sure we speak up.
Jack, thanks for bringing that to our attention.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Count-
Geez, I want to say something.
You're supposed to push that.
All right. So does everybody understand what the motion is before us? And that it would be effective April 1st, I think, is what Councilor Caproli's intent of this year.
Yes.
Okay. Regardless of the amount of work that's going to take Mr. Blaze, we appreciate his efforts, but what the council is saying, it's a priority for this year. Councilor Foster.
I was seconding.
Okay.
I pushed the button when I'm supposed to.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? And Mr. Fitzgibbon, I just want you to know the reason I called on you is because this was not posted on the agenda that was available before tonight, and I wanted to give anybody who had the chance to comment on it to have that chance tonight, because it was late on the agenda. We had discussed the whole elderly exemption issue in the past, but not specifically this increase or this motion. So that's why I called on you.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you when you said that somebody could comment. You're talking about the Blazers' most recent.
This particular motion, once it was made, I called on you to give you the chance to speak to it because it was not on the agenda that was posted before tonight. So I wanted to give the chance to anybody here who had additional comments on it. That's why I called on you.
I wasn't as concerned with that as I was up till that point. I was up C, okay?
Okay.
And so what, I dare say a few other people would be certainly able to admit that they didn't hear anything either with regard to what I pointed out with regard to the, all right. As far as what happened with Mr. Blaze, and even though I totally disagree with extending this another year, another month is too much as far as I'm concerned. And I think I get substantial information here that would convince anybody with a reasonable amount of intelligence that this is not something that's a political issue, or you have to make a political statement to the people. And I'll tell you one thing that I totally disagree with, people that know me and have been involved here, this does not involve a cost to the town of Newmarket with regard to this particular sector of constituents any more than supporting the school or the guys that are plowing the roads. It's not a cost, it's an ongoing expense, and it should be there. And it's getting more acute with every year that goes by. So you should approach it with that in mind.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing that there's no more comments, let's call the roll on the motion, which I believe we're all clear on now.
Councilor Jerry Hamel.
Aye.
Councilor Caprioli.
Aye.
Councilor Morrison.
Aye.
Councilor Will Hamel.
Aye.
Councilor Glennon.
Aye.
Councilor Foster.
Aye.
Councilor Hart.
Aye.
Motion carries.
The next agenda item is discussion of prime wetland status for Falls Brook area.
Can I interject something?
No. This is on the agenda right now just to clarify everybody, and then I'll open up for council input. Because of the pending we submitted the prime wetland status ordinance, and they have not acted on it yet, and they're not acting on it yet until we determine whether we want them to act on it prior to submitting or after submitting the wetlands permit to restore Falls Brook as a drinking water supply. It's become clear to the council and to Leo Fillion and the Falls Brook Committee, and Jerry, if I'm saying incorrectly, please correct me, that if we have the Falls Brook as one of the prime wetlands, it'll be harder to do the routine maintenance of the system, the sand bed filters, in the future, if it's designated as a prime wetland. And so the question before the council, and I believe there's going to be some input from Mr. Hamel, Wilfred Hamel, and the Conservation Commission, is how do we want to act on that? And the way that I understand it, there's three options. We can keep it within the prime wetlands designation and tell DES to process the application as it is. We can change the prime wetlands to exclude a portion of the Falls Brook area or all of the Falls Brook prime wetland. So those are the three options that we have. And that's what we'll discuss tonight to see which direction we want to go in. Councilor Glennon and then Councilor Wilfred Hamel.
No, mine, I just wanted to say something before we got into this discussion we had talked earlier about having a second meeting. I just was trying to figure out where we were gonna end on the agenda before we sat here all night wondering. That was,
Let's try to get it done.
It's possible we could get most of the agenda done.
That was my concern. I would like to hear from the conservation people, because I
Sure.
did get some comments from the public, and it almost seems like, and I'm not sure if I'm correct on this, that we should forego the application and wait for a later date or something like that, because we're gonna have a more difficult time further down the road if we proceed at the course of action we are now looking at. When it comes, say, 5 or 6 years to do some maintenance on that, it'll be even harder.
Yes.
Okay, so that's basically,
Mhm.
that's correct then. And you would concur with that, Mr.
Yes.
Hamel? Okay.
Counselor Wolford Hamel?
I'd like to vote on this tonight. Can we?
I would. I think we could move it to the next meeting or the business meeting, just because it's an ordinance. We're gonna have to have a public hearing on it. The
It
prime
will-
wetlands was an ordinance, and if we're gonna revise it, there's a pretty significant process.
It will
We haven't
be,
adopted the,
We've adopted the ordinance and sent it to the state.
okay, but you can, I think it would be appropriate for you tonight, if you wanted to do something, to make a motion
So the staff could
to
prepare.
withdraw the existing application and revise the maps. And then we go to work on the ordinance itself.
We'd have to do an amendment to the ordinance and have a public hearing and a posting. Right. Okay, so the solution, it sounds like, assuming that the council is in support, is to send a letter to vote to send a letter to DES to withdraw the application, then to work with staff to prepare a new ordinance based on whatever decision we make about what the boundaries should be, have a public hearing on that, get input and pass the ordinance, and then resubmit it.
And that's the motion I'd like to make now.
Okay. All right. Is there a second to that motion?
Second it.
Okay, Counselor Morrison, saw your hand there, Jerry, but he spoke up, so.
Sorry.
Counselor Caprioli,
Okay, if we revise it to, because I heard a couple of options, so I'm just going with, if we revise the maps to take out a portion of Follett's Brook, how much do we have to take out, and how will that impact the development regulations for the surrounding properties? Do you know what I'm trying to ask?
I think right now, that's a good question, because I've asked that question, and I've stated that as a concern when I've spoken with Leo. And I think right now, what we're doing is we're not going to be taking it off the books. It's still
Correct.
a rule in Newmarket. We're and it's still, therefore, anybody who applies has to meet that in the short term. And so when we get to the point of the ordinance and revising it, that we can discuss that and figure out where the boundaries really are. I think if
We
I,
still have control over where the boundaries is.
yes,
that's what
we
I'm-
will,
okay.
as the council, at the public hearing. And I think it might be appropriate for you to solicit the input of the planning board, since they also passed the ordinance in a draft form. But we'd like to streamline the process. And if I understand the area that we're talking about, most of it's either been developed or conserved. There's a very little left land that hasn't been developed or conserved.
Isn't there 14 acres someplace around there?
Yeah, yep. There's some land on the Durham border,
Yeah,
and there's a lot of land in Durham, but we don't control that.
but that's pretty far down. No, it isn't really that far down.
It's down Packers Falls Road.
Right.
Does that help answer your question?
Yes, yes.
Counselor Foster?
I had some concerns about this as well, and I spoke to the town planner and some other individuals. And what we can do is, if we do end up taking the Falls Brook, or what it sounds like we can do is, if we end up taking Falls Brook off of the prime wetlands designation, then we can also, if Falls Brook becomes our water supply once again, then we obviously can pass regulations to prevent any type of development close by, or if there is development, they're going to have to take certain precautions.
So we can do a wellhead protection, just like.
Exactly. So, which would actually be, possibly be stronger than
Yep.
the, what we're talking about here.
Any further questions or comments? All right, so the motion, if I did say it, but I wasn't really making it as a motion. So the motion is to send a letter to DES withdrawing the prime wetlands application at this time, and then to have staff initiate the drafting of an ordinance to redraw the boundaries of Falls Brook. and that'll come before us, and we'll have a public hearing, et cetera.
Mhm.
Is that correct? Okay, just want to make sure. With that, please call the roll on the motion.
Brian,
Yeah.
you say this is going to be the next business meeting.
Well, I think the way the ordinances work, we have to do a first reading,
Mhm.
and then we send it to a public hearing. So we have at least 2 meetings. And
we
that's
can
if staff can draft something that we find
Okay,
acceptable
yeah.
immediately.
I think you'll probably discuss this at the April workshop. By that time, there
Have
should
to
be
start
revision
right
of the
over.
maps and all of that before you.
But this is the process to
Yes.
start with.
Okay.
This starts it.
All right, please call the roll.
Counselor Jerry Hamel?
Aye.
Counselor Caprioli?
Aye.
Counselor Morrison?
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel?
Aye.
Counselor Glennon?
Aye.
Counselor Foster?
Aye.
Counselor Hart?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Continue discussion on Metcalf and Eddy proposal for study of short-term improvements for the water plant. This is the proposal that we requested from Metcalf and Eddy that they presented to us a few meetings ago. And it's a study to determine which treatment processes we could add to the water treatment plant to, in the short term, meet the disinfection byproduct standards in case we had to go on to the water treatment plant for an extended period of time. And it's a $16,000 study. And my understanding from talking to the administrator is that he and the staff do not recommend proceeding with it at this time. Counselor Foster, actually Administrator Dixon and then Counselor Foster.
Yes. George Laney and I had a discussion with, a telephone conference call with Don Shelton, Mark Moran, and one other gentleman from the Metcalf and Eddy organization yesterday. We raised the same issues that we raised at the last meeting. That is, would it be ill-advised, perhaps maybe for us to move on these temporary measures until we have the results of what we might be able to deliver from the Follett's Brook, okay? And at the end of that discussion, they concluded that it would not hurt us to delay, particularly if Follett's Brook can have some results maybe by the August-September period of this fall. Would not hurt us one bit, would not impact the study. In fact, it would be very complimentary probably if we had the results.
So we're basically saying delay this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Counselor Foster, but yes.
That was one of my questions, and the other one is I noticed that I jumped from 3.1 to 6.5. Is there nothing important in between? I mean, I'm not trying to be sarcastic, I
Remember
just
that
wanted
last
to.
time too. It was kind
Yeah,
of fun.
mine's the same way.
Photocopier?
We're missing pages 2 and 3.
Looks like, so, just before, if this does get delayed before next fall, maybe we can have those 2 pages?
Yes.
Thank you.
So if we don't proceed with the contract, we're not going to be jeopardizing ourselves. The wells are at very high levels. We've obviously had a very wet winter with lots of snow, and a pretty good start to the spring, so we'll be able to get through the year.
And we intend to keep the conservation measure in place, no outside watering, with the premise that the most important thing is to have drinking water.
Counselor Caprelli?
I'd like to make a motion that we postpone the proposal for the study of short-term improvement for the water plant.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion on the motion to postpone acting on this and study?
When are we moving it to? To September, October?
She didn't put a date on the motion.
Yeah, I'd say till the September meeting.
Okay.
We'll
I'm only, go ahead.
I'm under the, we'll probably have more answers to questions that are out there at that point to help us make an economical decision,
An informed decision, too.
informed decision.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay, so the motion's been revised to till the September meeting. Is there any discussion? All right, please call the roll.
Counselor Jerry Hamel?
Aye.
Counselor Caprioli?
Aye.
Counselor Morrison?
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel?
Aye.
Counselor Glennon?
Aye.
Counselor Foster?
Aye.
Counselor Hart?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, update and discussion on potential trash transfer station. I asked that this be put on the agenda just to get a quick update on where we're at, because we really haven't heard anything since we went to Long Island.
If-
Commissioner Dixon and
if I-
Jerry's on the committee as well as, who else is on the committee?
Me.
Scott.
I had a quick meeting with Cochrane Group and a delegation from the Lamprey River Cooperative, and Jerry Hamill was able to accommodate that meeting at a noon hour. Basically, we're pretty much at ground zero at this point as to moving ahead. We don't have a concrete proposal before us. I have elicited the support, too, of the Lamprey River Cooperative Group, which we are part of, and originally was incorporated to operate the incinerator at the University of New Hampshire and Durham. There were 13 communities in the organization. There are still 12. And they're very interested in the proposal from Cochrane, too. But at this point in time, I guess we know as much about the proposal as we did 3 months ago. So there's really nothing to report, is there, Jerry?
No, there seemed to be some skepticism on the part of some of the other members, but Cochrane still is very interested, but location, I think, is going to be an issue.
I will say this, at the last meeting, the owner of the company, I can't think of his name right now.
I can't either.
Basically, he was leaning toward a site that would already be operating and already be licensed and permitted.
Which doesn't exist in Newmarket.
Well, theoretically it does. It would have to be amended, but it's our landfill location, okay,
Where's that?
on Ash Swamp,
Oh, yeah.
which would lend itself quite well, probably. We're already working there. But that was kind of he made a statement that day that it would be probably, as far as being able to get the operation up and going, beneficial to look at a site that was already in use. So in
Councilor Gunn?
Newmarket, that would be Ash Swamp.
And you're saying that Ash Swamp Road where the current dump is now?
Correct.
So they would build a structure out there?
Well, they would need some sort of structure, and assuming it was there, yes, it would be at our transfer station. Or at our, we don't have a transfer station, at our facility.
Our
that we use.
facility.
Yeah.
And there's 13 communities involved with this?
My reference was to the Lamprey Cooperative Group, which
Right.
originally was set up to run the incinerator that was located at the University of New Hampshire in Durham. That since has been closed.
Right, I thought
Okay.
that had been
But the
closed.
Lamprey Cooperative still exists,
Right.
and there are 12 communities, of which we are still a part of.
That's how we got the good tipping rates.
That's how we got
Trash.
the good tipping fees.
So are we saying that all of those communities would bring their stuff here? It'd all be trucked into here?
We aren't saying anything at this point in time, but
Why
that
do we
would be
need-
the idea,
Okay,
that
'cause
it
I was
would be
gonna say,
originally operated.
Why would
facility.
we need their cooperation? Because if I understood this right prior to tonight, is trash could be coming from all over the country to this site,
Oh.
not just these towns.
It would
That's
be-
how I
It would
understood
be
it.
from the northeast.
From the northeast, okay. And there's still that separation, separating their stuff, but there's be no chemicals, no stack to burn anything, and it'd just be separated and hauled away. Okay, and does that require, like, what size trucks for that? And especially on Ash Swamp Road?
The trucks they used down there were 18-wheelers and trash trucks.
Can you get 18-wheelers down there?
Well,
They'd
it-
have to go by the school or come in through 152?
Well, right now, we're a long ways away
Yeah.
from design of the project. So when and if they bring a proposal forward, then that detail will have to be looked at. If the road has to be worked on from 152 to the landfill, that's something that we have to consider. and the developer has to consider. If the intersection has to be reconfigured, that's something that has to be looked at.
So basically, what's the biggest holdup? They're not moving
We
on
haven't
their
got a
end?
proposal from them.
Yeah.
We have no
Okay.
proposal.
We're not moving because we haven't got a proposal. But we don't understand why they're not coming with a proposal to us?
No, it's
I mean, I
like a
thought
lot
this
of
was a
things.
gun
You like,
hole thing.
well, it's like a lot of things, you like to move real fast, but there's, reality eventually comes into play, and it does take time, and that's what we're looking at.
When did you go to New York? September?
October.
It was the day after the Red Sox won
October
because I went to
29.
New York with my Boston Globe
right.
showing the Red Sox.
It was the night the Spring Street property
That would've
burned.
been-
Yeah,
ninth of
yeah,
Kwanzaa.
yeah, it was-
October, November, December, January, February, March. We're 6 months into
Remember
this.
that well.
Yep.
So,
It was Long Island.
Councilor Caprioli and then Councilor Wilfred Hamel.
I just would like, and this is just so that you have this knowledge out, so that when they do come before you, if they do, with a proposal, I'd like to know, how much of an investment the town is gonna make as far as infrastructure goes, and be able to weigh what the assets and liabilities are, and, it seems like this site wouldn't be as costly to the town as another site that was proposed, but I'd like to see the business plan, you know what I mean?
Oh,
before-
absolutely.
And I think that should be part of their proposal.
It certainly will be. If a facility like this is located in our community, there's host community benefits. It's just like the turnkey operation in Rochester. There are host community benefits, which are not insignificant. But rather than trying to project what they are right now, we've all talked a little bit about them.
Right.
Let's wait till we get that hard plan before us and we can kick it around.
Councilor Wilfred Hamel.
Is it too early to figure out roughly how many trucks will be coming by my house? I mean, I know, you know where I'm coming from.
The site in
Uh,
Long Island processed 800 tons a day. Right?
That's-
Just about, it was something like that. So depending on the trucks, they were 50 trucks a day, I think is what they said.
So if there's a need to widen the road, could they include my house? No, I'm getting serious here. About 2 years ago, I might be conflicting here with being a council. About 2 years ago, was it, we erected this B3 zone?
Yes.
That's getting risky. Now, 50 trucks a day, tractor trailers.
18-wheelers.
Yeah. It's, I mean, you know that we're.
I don't want to hear that.
Okay, I didn't even
Okay.
finish.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilor Jerry Hamel?
Yeah, I think the reason they had mentioned an existing landfill was that by going that route, they could cut away about 6 months' worth of paperwork and filing for a new site.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
That-
whether 6 months is going to be an issue in this or not, I don't know. It seems to be dragging out anyways, so.
6 months of paperwork doesn't bother me at all. If they took 6 years, or maybe 60, yeah.
Well, I received a few phone calls about this idea, and I'll just, if we're going to proceed with this at any level, it's going to be with extreme caution and lots of consideration. There's not going to be any rushing to judge it, and the town hasn't made any commitment towards this other than to explore it, because that's our responsibility, to explore different options that'll bring a tax base and benefits to the town. And we will, if we get to the point of actually having a proposal that we feel is worth bringing forward, we will solicit significant amount of public comment. I guarantee that. And we will have those meetings as often as necessary to get that input. Councilor Wilfred Hamel.
Yeah, if during conversations on this in the future could include the fact that I think I understood in the beginning that that amount of vehicles, that amount of stuff coming into town would come off from a main road like 108, 152, instead of going by residential
Yeah.
residents, if we would keep that in mind, not just for myself, but that could be havoc to someone that's trying to live in town here. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Is there anybody else have any comments or discussion on this at this point? All right. Thank you for the update. Commissioner Dixon has suggested, and we'll see what the council would like to do, of moving item number 6 farther down the agenda to when we discuss the photocopying and agenda items, since they're all kind of related.
Good idea.
Is that everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move item number 6 to around number 15. Item number 7, review and discussion of draft ordinance 2005-04, Cemetery Trustees Committee. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Commissioner Dixon's distributing a revised ordinance, which has some minor corrections that I requested. Once you get it, I'll explain what those minor corrections are. Just
Just what we talked about, Brian, today?
yeah, I believe it is. Yep. The minor corrections are that, well, they attached RSA 289.5 and 289.7, so we had that before us when we discussed this. This number 2 underneath membership said that after the initial selection, one shall be elected for a 1-year term, one for a 2-year term, one for a 3-year term. This is an ordinance, so it's an appointment by us. That's what we discussed. So there's just, I think what happened is they copied it directly from the state statute. So that was the 2 minor changes that I requested that were made. Counselor Caprioli?
Okay, so, because I had to leave the last meeting at 10:30, but, the reason we're doing this is so that we have a committee that takes care of the public cemeteries, which in Newmarket, there's 2 public,
Yes, I believe so.
but this has nothing to do with private cemeteries, because we can't, set up a committee to run private cemeteries on private property, is that correct?
Correct.
I wouldn't think so.
This is for public cemeteries.
Okay, and that's the one by the river, and the one out, or was that the Catholic one?
No, that's the one.
108.
No, the one right behind the police department.
Speak up.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
There's 3.
The cemetery one by the golf course is the church.
Oh, that's right, so it's not, okay.
Not public.
Thank you.
Okay. And they would be, the responsibilities would only be what's in 289.5 and 7.
Correct. That's the way it's been drafted.
Adopt bylaws, prepare annual budget, spend monies, spend income from trusts, prepare deeds. So it has nothing to do with maintenance of them or,
Well, if you're preparing a budget,
I mean, maintenance, I understand suggesting the dollars for the council to approve, but not physically maintaining.
no.
Okay.
I do believe, though, if they wanted to, let's say, instead of the town to,
Hire outside, they could suggest it.
yeah.
Yeah, I think and underneath 289.5, that one's a little. Someone needs to rewrite that, but it seems to be saying that every burial showing the date of burial and the name of the person buried. They include every private burial site within a municipality. And a copy of the information shall be provided to the cemetery trustees who maintain the municipal records of such sites. And then they'll provide that to people when they request it and charge them a fee if they want. And the location of each cemetery and private burial site will be annotated on the municipal tax map.
Which they are.
Yep. And then in terms of the powers, well, I'll read it. If I got questions, I'll ask them. Counselor Glennon?
Thank you. basically what we're doing here, if we all remember from information provided to us by Richard Alpern, is that we're coming into compliance with state RSA. This is the whole reason why we're doing this. In addition to that, Al and I had a conversation, I'm not sure if Brian, if you were part of that on our conference call today or not, but this would give the committee the sole powers of forming a budget, getting it to the council, getting it into the budget process, all of that's in there. Plus, I think, Al, you and I were talking about there could be some benefit to some of these older cemeteries that are falling apart and everything, and I won't go into detail on that, but there could be something there. Because you had talked about another cemetery, like within the cemetery, the older ones. Remember you and I talked about that? Yeah, that's something totally different. But
Whole separate issue,
yeah,
yes.
so separate issue. But what it means is that there could be some benefit there for all of the cemeteries in some way, shape, or form. So I just wanted to, for public record, to let the public know why we're taking this action. It is actually mandated by state RSA that every town should have a committee cemetery. It can either be 5 or 3-member committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Foster?
Mr. Pelzar currently holds what position?
Trustee of the trust funds.
So that's trustee of the trust of all trust funds or the cemetery trust funds?
All trust funds.
All trust funds, okay.
Yes. He also, for the large sum of $2,400 a year, does all the work of a cemetery trustees at this point in time.
Okay.
You know, he plots where everyone is buried, he, and identifies them and all
Dates
of that.
Okay.
Can I just make a comment on that? I think Mr. Pelzer has done an excellent job through the years on this, and it's in no way diminishing what he's done. It's just something that's a requirement through, again, state RSA. And I would hope that he could be part of that cemetery committee, because I think he's done a tremendous job there,
Hopefully he'll apply.
hopefully.
Counselor Jerry Hamel?
That was my question, is Ed Pelzer is taking care of a lot of this currently,
He
these
is-
functions?
He's performing pretty much all the duties, the same way Roy Kent, and I believe there was a funeral director in town prior to Roy Kent that also performed the same function. I do believe, and it's just not worth looking back, at some point in time, probably, as Roy Kent said, maybe we were operating for over 100 years or 200 years illegally, but basically, he shared the discussion with us. I'm quite sure that at some point in time, there probably was a warrant article where the cemetery's responsibility was vested with the Board of Selectmen. But that'd taken a lot of time to research, and it's not worth the issue. You have the ability to do it, do it.
And Mr. Pelzar was at the last meeting and did offer up a lot of good information and explained that there is a couple $100,000 in a trust fund for the cemeteries, but you can't touch the principal, and that revenue is used to pay for some of the labor expenses the town has in maintaining mowing and everything like that.
And one of the first thing I would think, and I hope that maybe the new cemetery board of trustees would be charged with the council and themselves, is to look at updating the cost of the perpetual care charges for plots, because when the next cemetery is needed, when it's full, land, as we well know, is going to be very expensive, and our fees
And
are
legend.
very reasonable at this point in time.
Counselor Wilford Hamel, then Counselor Caprioli.
To bring us up to date with abiding by the RSAs is the way we should be going. However, I'm wondering, when these 3 trustees are chosen, if they're going to realize how much work there is to record keeping, grave keeping. I've been involved a little bit a while back with funeral directors in town. Like, for instance, Mr. Pelzer's doing all of this for St. Mary's Church at Calvary Cemetery, and so he's doing quite a job, has done quite a job. Like I say, we want to stay legal, be legal, but we're trying to fix something that isn't broken. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Caprioli.
we keep talking that people are gonna apply, this is not an elected, we appoint. Are we gonna have a criteria? This just sounds like it's more of, it's not, I mean, it just sounds like it's, you gotta have very good records and you gotta know what you're doing. Is this, are we gonna set like credentials? What, I mean, I think someone with some knowledge should be doing this. I don't think it's something that,
I think we should encourage Mr. Pelzar to apply
Okay.
and be on it for the initial couple years. And hopefully his knowledge and systems that he's been using can be transferred to whoever, so the committee starts to have institutional knowledge that's transferred from membership.
okay.
I would also recommend that Mr. Alpern does too, with his historical background of graves and cemeteries. So there's two good candidates right there to start out with.
Counselor Morrison, or is that, were you done?
Yes.
Okay,
almost.
Counselor Morrison.
Maybe we get Mr. Pelzar to actually come up with a little manual or a little statement of standards, practices, just to clarify it.
Yeah, that's pretty much in the RSA's too, so.
We could find out, yeah, if he's not, well, if he's unable or doesn't have the time to be actually appointed or applied, then maybe we can, I'm sure he'll be willing to help out. He's done so much already. So, the next step is, generally at the workshop, we can move this to the next business meeting for a public hearing and action. So I'd look for a motion to do that if there's no further discussion.
I'll make that motion.
Counselor Caprioli?
I'll
is there-
second it.
Counselor Caprioli makes a motion to move ordinance 2005-04 to the April business meeting for public hearing and action, and Counselor Glennon seconds. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Counselor Jerry Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Caprioli.
Aye.
Counselor Morrison.
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Glennon.
Aye.
Counselor Foster.
Aye.
Counselor Hart.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Got a little confused passing out the next agenda item, sorry.
What's this? What do you mean on? One of those.
We got. That must be mine. Okay, the next agenda item is discussion of or approval of the 2005 town warrant. And this is the same as the one that we got in the packet?
Yes, except it has the default budget amount.
Okay. So this has been revised to include the default budget amount. There's 7 articles. The first one is the town officers. The second one is the establishment of a fire ladder truck capital reserve, which would put $50,000. It would establish a capital reserve fund for the fire ladder truck and put $50,000 from taxes into it, and then authorize the town council's agents to expend the fire truck capital reserve. Article 3 and 4 discontinue 2 existing capital reserve funds, the safety building and public works facilities building. Those are being discontinued because they were created in 1999 and 1998 respectively to help fund the construction of the public works fire rescue building, which we have completed, and therefore the funding within them can be withdrawn and transferred to the general fund. There's a minimal amount of money in both of those. Article 5 is the construction of fiber optic network from fund balance, which was described to us by Mike Gill 2 meetings ago, I think it was. Article 6 is the operating budget, and Article 7 is other business. So, I guess I'll see if there's any questions on Article 2 first.
Yes.
Counselor Glennon?
$50,000 put aside. Do we have 2 questions, I guess, 2-part question. One is, do we know what the cost of a ladder would be if we were to purchase today?
$750,000.
Okay. The other part of that question is, do we have somewhat of a timeline to when we want this? Well, the sooner the better, but that's not
Well,
what I'm
what-
asking.
The idea here is to put it before the voters and to see if they think it's a priority for the town to acquire. And if they establish it and fund it, then I believe it sends a message that it is a priority. And then what the next council will have to do is figure out at what funding level it fits into the capital reserve program. I would think it's probably going to take 5 to 6 years to get that money in there, which would be about $100,000 a year. on average.
100,000 a year.
150, 120.
Now, that leads me to my final question on this, which is, we're getting this ladder primarily because of the current structures that are being built, such as, and I can't think of anybody else, but other than Cheney, probably your organization too.
The mills.
The mills, yeah, okay. Is there any way, I know like when somebody comes in and wants to put something in, and the state has to approve it, you know, as far as highway and all of that stuff, that the state can tax some of that additional cost onto the developer. Is that something that can be done through this process, or is that collected through the impact fees?
Well,
Administrator Dixon?
it could be through impact fees. It also could be through negotiated items through site approval and things of that nature. However, we haven't operated that way as of late. I do have a plan and suggestion that this next year that we have a good look at all of our impact fees, looking at updating them, particularly with the advent of possibility of looking at a new school, and other things that have changed in the last 5 years since we did it. And also maybe looking at impact fees for roads, et cetera, expanding those roles.
So expanding the impact fees to cover something like that.
Would it be possible for us to have an impact fee for structures of a certain size that require, that would be best defended or from a fire or fought with a ladder truck? Like a building over 30 feet tall or whatever?
We can, yes, we can.
Whatever
We
the
can
size
do
is.
that. We can do that in an ordinance and make it mandatory so it is not a negotiated thing. And basically, like the ladder truck would be for growth, okay? It's
Yeah.
not necessarily, there'd be some percentage of it that wouldn't be able to be captured by impact fees because there's a need for, perceived need right now. So I don't know what that proration might be.
Well, the need now is because of the structures that are, well,
That are here.
Downtown.
Already here.
Yeah, I don't think we should be saying it's related to the growth. It's related to the growth of the size of the structures, not the growth in population. The structures are getting much higher up there, so, and what I was concerned was that I just don't like to keep on putting these bills onto the taxpayer, that if the developer is gonna come into the town and develop and go 5 or 6 stories up, I'm just a little concerned that happening and they take off out of town. And then the taxpayer is stuck with the cost. That's why I was wondering about the impact fee and how much that would impact that. Okay, thank you.
Counselor Foster, Counselor Caprioli.
The only thing I'd say to that is I don't think there's any new structures being built that are as big as our mill buildings. And those are some of the buildings that are going to need this ladder truck. I mean, especially with the redevelopment of the mills.
Yeah,
But also just with the mills the way they were. Those are the tallest structures in town.
I don't know, what about Walter Cheney way up on the hill?
No, I
That's
would
pretty
s-
high up there, those 3rd floors, 4th floors, whatever.
The mills are 5 stories tall.
Yeah,
so.
so, I mean,
So it's a combination of,
We can't go retroactively back to
Right.
past developments, but if we wanted to explore, I mean, we don't have zoning that would allow a structure over,
35 feet.
right,
you do have one? Oh, no more than 35 feet? Oh, you don't have one?
we do.
we have an
Don't
ordinance
have
that does not allow.
Don't allow it unless by special use permit exemption.
So maybe if someone bought the post office and wanted to put in a 40-foot building, I mean, that kind of place makes sense.
Bank of America.
Yeah.
Another thing,
Counselor Caprioli, you were next.
when Raymond got the distribution center for Walmart, that was a direct impact on their firefighting capabilities. So they were able to mitigate half the cost of a ladder truck for that, just because that facility had to have one. They couldn't put a fire out there without it.
Epping got a water tower.
Yeah.
I don't think we're looking at any kind of
Yes, no.
developments that would even approach that.
Nothing on the table now, but we don't know down the road.
That's correct. Maybe if Blackberry TIF
Exactly.
gets available, we would want to have a ladder truck. Any further comments or questions on that? Okay. Do we want to discuss Articles 3 or 4? I think they're somewhat self-evident.
If you, on Article 3, if you discontinue the monies that are there, where do the monies go?
General fund.
Into the general fund? Okay, both of these would be general fund, right? Do we have any idea what's in those funds?
It was reported it's somewhat less than 7,000 in one account and a little less than 10 in the other.
Okay, we're moving about 17,000 over.
At the most, yep. Okay, Article 5, construction of the fiber optic network from fund balance.
Question. Yes, I do have it. I hate to hit that button.
Counselor Glennon?
When you say fund balance of $125,000, can you kind of explain to me how we come to that figure? Is that monies that were in the budget approved but never used? And it is surplus type monies at the end of the fiscal year? Am I correct on that?
Well, our fund balance, the state dictates, I think I provided that to you through the budget process. You've been on, what, twice, 2 years now?
Yeah.
Yeah. To the Budget Committee. When we do the tax rate setting, they have certain standards that identify a community as sound financially and physically, okay, responsible. Basically, that used to be that you could have somewhere around, well, in our case, it was around 5 to 10, yeah, in all the communities, okay, 5 to 10%, okay, basically, of the budget. Basically, now, the state this year revised that, and it's anywhere from 5 to, I think it's 18%. I don't have it, you
That's
know,
what
I'm
you said
going.
before.
Yeah, I thought you had said that.
So, it's not, it's a combination of what we have to do when we set the tax rate with DRA. It's a combination also if we do have funds that aren't expended during the course of the year, and that's what I try to have the departments do, then that goes into the fund balance. Keep in mind that we are taking currently about $475,000 a year from the fund balance to reduce taxes.
Oh, how much is that are we taking?
About 400 and, I
Okay.
gave that to you here
Yeah.
just a minute ago.
sorry,
What's the
the
figure?
Less fund balance.
450,000.
450,000.
So we are using some of this to offset the increase of taxes.
Absolutely.
And the reason why I'm asking this is because I kind of got the impression that, in my mind, are we over budget, not, wait a minute, are the departments asking for more money than what they would actually use? But that's not really the case. It's what you're able to save through the course of the fiscal year, funds that we don't use, and then it sort of pays back to us when not using them. Is that
Well,
correct?
Plus, when we set the tax rate, you know, communities go out to bond. You're going to be going out to bond for significant monies, perhaps schools,
Yeah.
et cetera. So you have a rating that is looked at. That affects and impacts your cost of borrowing. If a community our size, for example, I think, and again, I'm going back, I didn't bring my budget package with me on that tonight, but I believe that the state right now, DRA, is saying when we set our tax rate, our fund balance could be as high as $2.2 million, all right? The highest we have been is 1.8, but right now we are approximately $1 million, $1.2 million in fund balance. So we're not high, we're not necessarily low. We could drop down, we're close to the bottom of 800,000. So I'm doing this all by memory at this point in time, but I think it serves pretty well. So basically, the DRA, the Department of Revenue, is there for all communities in setting the tax rates. And they have an interest in keeping a town sound financially. And by state law, you cannot present a budget that is a deficit in nature. You have to run a balanced budget.
Okay. And my last question on that is, when the fiber optic, if it's approved by the voters, will this also include, probably Mike, will this include the phone system for the
This
school?
is-
For the school department, no. For the town, yes.
The school is separate. We budget for the town. The school has budgeted for themselves. Okay, so we have budgeted our component. They are currently budgeting their component.
Oh, as far as coming into the fiber optic?
Yes.
Okay, so they're doing theirs separately then.
Well, it's looked at being done jointly, I mean, but yes.
Oh, okay, that was my question. If we did it jointly, would it actually save dollars by having it all done at once?
It is gonna be all done at once.
It
It's
is
just
gonna
the
be,
school
and they're gonna pay their
department-
own portion.
Correct,
That's
basically.
right.
That's what I wanted. Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you.
We have to have all this language.
Yes,
It's a lot of numbers.
there's a lot of information, and unfortunately, there are some articles that lend themselves to a lot of verbiage. And DRA, at this point, has reviewed the verbiages and concurs that they are acceptable. It can be confusing. Unfortunate.
Number 4 in that list says rate on investment of 3.5 years. I think it means return on
Rate
investment.
rate of return. Yep.
Or no, it's not even the rate; it's the return on investment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The rate would be like 30%.
Yeah.
It
But
should be
return.
return on investment.
Yep. Return on investment.
And then number 5, the last sentence, there's an extra parentheses there.
Yes.
Yeah, it shouldn't be there.
I think also the first in number 5, like last but not least, in this day of information explosion, that whole can be crossed out.
I think that can come out.
Just say this project will allow employees of the town of Newmarket. Just to shorten it. I mean,
You can get rid of this, with number 3 with the computer age before us, too.
yeah. This is good stuff for if we had a brochure, but not for the warrant article.
Okay, you'd like to take
I
that
would
out.
agree.
That's all right.
And then take all number 5?
No, just the beginning.
Just the first.
Last
8
but not
words,
least in
9
this
words.
day. Just start with this project.
So take out the first sentence in paragraph 3
Yeah.
completely.
Mm.
Yes.
No.
Just with the computer age before.
Yeah.
us. So it starts with all departments need to share information in electronic
Oh,
form in
okay.
order to save man hours.
All right, I see. Very good.
I was gonna say,
That's
man.
good suggestion. That
Um,
So then-
DRA doesn't really comment on wordiness.
Yeah, no, good point.
Lennon?
Yeah, one more question that, I just had it now. It just went right out of my head as I was thinking of something here. Well,
Mike.
hopefully I'll come back.
Okay. We talked about this last time, and the Verizon service on that chart you gave us was $56,000 a year, and the fiber optic network would cost us $22,000 a year. And I guess my question is, what's if we do install this and the voters pass it and we proceed, that $22,000 a year is not included in the $125,000 we're spending. So if we have a 10-year like lifespan for fiber optic network, or what, how often are we have to replace the wires,
Well,
upgrade?
The lifespan is, for the fiber network itself, you're talking a lifespan 20 to 30 years. That's what we're looking at since the first fiber was laid back in the 80s.
Okay, so if we
Still
say
around that.
20 years to be conservative, then our cost is like probably $6,000 or $7,000 amortized on top of the $22,000 operating. What about did you get any expense figures for what it would cost to pay for the annual licenses or
Well, there's just
the maintenance agreements?
Yeah, well, the
Step to the
maintenance
mic,
is as needed. The maintenance is as needed, such as someone hit a pole,
Yep.
line came down, it's $125 an hour
Yeah.
for maintenance. That's only if the line actually breaks. There's a break in the line, then it'll be $125 an hour.
Yeah.
If someone just hit a pole and the wires got knocked down, PSNH would come up and put the lines back up like they do now.
Is there a charge?
Yeah, we'd be charged for that, right?
That, I don't know.
Probably.
I think we need
That,
to
I don't
do
know if we're charged.
I can't imagine that they would.
It's
we
not
would get-
through White Mountain Cable, who
Who
are
does the
going
actual
through the build
installation.
of the actual network.
But if a pole was hit, assuming by a vehicle or something like that,
Charge
there'd be
them.
a third party,
Yeah, it'll be an insurance.
We'd be, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I
But if
thought
a
too,
branch
yeah,
fell
sure.
off a tree,
then that's
different.
ours.
Yeah.
Oh, are we insured for that?
We have some liability coverage, yes. It would depend on what the damage was. It was less than $1,000?
We have
No,
a-
we-
do we have a- do we have a deductible on that? We
Yeah.
probably do.
Thousand.
I just remembered my question.
okay, so do you have any of those, like, any, other than that it's $125 a year, I mean, what kind of cost do we have, other than what you've listed in terms of this figure right here, the $20,000.
Well, this figure here, what, the 125,000, that would cover?
No, the
I'm sorry?
$22,608 a year for the fiber optic cable.
Okay,
It's not, I don't think it's in that.
okay.
It is. It's on your green thing.
What was the question again? Oh, okay, I got that here.
Are there any other costs other than what you've listed for the fiber optic cable? It says, it says at the bottom, it says, plus new telephone and internet fees of $18.84 a month
Let me get to that page here.
versus the $4,700 a month.
Hey, what page are you on?
6.
6, okay. All right, what was the question again? I'm sorry.
What, are there any other expenses other than the unexpected repairs
No,
that we should be budgeting for?
no. None.
All right, thank you. Counselor Glennon?
Do we have any cushion in there in the event something should happen
Yes.
unexpected?
Yes.
Okay, so
absolutely.
it's like anything else, we're gonna budget probably 10% plus or minus?
Plus or minus, roughly around that.
All right, so we do have
Gives
that.
us as a cushion just in case something goes a little over. I think it was $10,000 cushion,
Okay,
which would be roughly 10%.
right,
Give or
okay,
take.
good. I'd like to hear that, 'cause something should happen.
In terms of the network itself, I understand how having a network would allow us to communicate to the police station and rec department really quickly,
Oh, yeah.
lots of data getting transferred.
Absolutely.
But when you go outside of that, if, like, the police, how do we connect to the internet for the
Okay.
whole town, for the town departments then?
The way it would happen is, since all departments are connected to town hall, town hall would be the central hub. So anything that would go outside to the internet would come through town hall first.
Mm-hmm.
And then from town hall, go through our firewalls, and then to the outside.
And what's that connection? Is it a T1?
That's
or
that would be a T1, correct.
We would just need one T1 for all the
Just one
employees?
T1 for everybody's internet, oh yeah. One T1 for internet, and then another T1 for voice. That's how it would be.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah. Are we allowing for any expandability in the current setup?
With this setup? Oh, yes, absolutely.
So there's, when I say expandability, I guess I'm referring to Counselor Hart's comment of T1.
Mhm.
Can we get another T1 in this setup?
we need it,
If we needed
absolutely.
it? We could.
Absolutely, we
So
could.
that expansion is there for the additional
Yes, it is.
T1.
Absolutely is.
Thank you.
The network connects here and the T1 comes in, so you
Comes
go to
into
that
here,
other one.
Right.
correct.
Okay.
And then from here, we distribute it to other departments around town.
I think that I think this is a good idea. I think that we're gonna need to put together a very nice one-page fact sheet about why it's a good idea. Because I think a lot of people are gonna look at it and go,
Okay.
I don't understand this.
So put together a one-page
Yeah.
summary, more or
Well,
less?
somebody needs to do it. And if it's gonna be advocacy, maybe it shouldn't be the town. But we just need to figure out how to explain it so it passes on its merits instead of failing because people didn't understand it.
Understood.
Does anybody have any other changes to it or questions?
I was just gonna make a suggestion that you give a little paragraph about Article 5 on a separate piece of paper. That's a good idea.
The money that you're gonna save in big, bold numbers.
Okay.
We could also do, on our Channel 13, put a scroll
We could.
on the ramifications of this article and any other article you wanted to expound on.
If you'd like to, absolutely.
Like
That's a
that.
good idea, yeah.
Yeah, we could do that.
Could
Councilor Foster?
Could you, going along that same line, would it be possible to put this whole thing on before actual,
Yeah, that's my
Absolutely.
before voting day? Because then people would have an idea of what they're gonna see in the poll, and they might have some questions. Instead of going in and voting, not knowing necessarily what they're voting on, they'd have an opportunity to ask questions.
Yes.
Not that anyone would
Absolutely.
necessarily
As soon as
sit and
it's,
watch this whole thing scroll through, but it would at least be an option.
As soon as it's signed and approved by the council, we post, I don't have a schedule right in front of me here tonight, but we post it, then it can go right on the channel. And
That'd be great.
Absolutely.
Exeter had some very large issues before their voters. And they had their department heads, making a presentation I don't think we have anything quite like that this year. We did have last year the Public Works facility, but it went well.
Yep.
I have one other question. I remember my
Counselor
question.
Glennon?
I remember my question from before. Is this the last day that warrant articles, we sign this tonight, that means nobody else can come up with another warrant article?
That's correct. The petitioning period is already closed. I believe that was March 8th. So the only ones that can add anything to the warrant at this point in time is the town council.
Okay, and I guess when I say that.
Now or forever hold your peace.
Yeah, I'm referring to all these people who are working on for and against the Packers Balls Road thing. So right now, it's too late for them to come in with any, like, say if they come up with 400 signatures. Or
Yes.
the
Well, that's a
opposition that
different
wants it comes in.
Well, that's,
If they come up with 400 signatures and send it to us, we have to have a special election.
Yep.
No matter when they do it.
Oh, it couldn't become a warrant item?
They could, but it's too late for that. It would just
Oh,
be a
yeah,
special
that's what I
election.
mean, it's too late. But I thought Al just said if it comes up to the council could add it to it.
Tonight.
well,
Oh,
tonight.
Only tonight.
Yeah, you're going to be voting. We're going to be preparing it for posting. You're finalizing it.
Okay, thank you.
Now, we have to have this printed also in the town report. And, you know, we're running up against timeframes.
Would anyone else like to add any warrant articles?
Yeah, the council makes more money.
Okay.
Instead of public.
So we made some minor changes to number 5,
That-
grammar-wise and stuff. Does someone want to make a motion regarding the approval for posting of the 2005 town meeting warrant
I'll make that motion
to
to
approve it?
approve the 2005 town warrant as corrected.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Councilor Foster seconds.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Sorry. Councilor Caprioli, Councilor Glennon, Foster. Is there any discussion on the motion? Please call a roll.
Counselor Jerry Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Caprioli.
Aye.
Counselor Morrison.
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Glennon.
Aye.
Counselor Foster.
Aye.
Counselor Hart.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Item number 8, update on banner program and approval of video transcript for the web.
And Mike Gill is here.
Making progress.
Don't jinx it.
Al, Jen Jarvis, and myself met with community banner people on the initial design of the banner. We talked about putting the town logo on the banner, as well as the logo we have on our website. Well, when you first go to our website, it says, "Welcome to Newmarket, Banks of Great Bay." That graphic, if you go to the website, you'll see it. I mentioned maybe we should keep the banner in sync with our website. Same colors, same color scheme, same type of graphics, that sort of thing. What they're going to do is they're going to come up with 2 or 3 different designs and get back to us. And at
And
that
that's-
point, we can correct them, say yes, say no, something different, et cetera.
And designs will eventually come to the council for final approval.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. We'll bring in the actual banner.
All right.
I got a question.
Do they have they resolved any issues about how they're gonna hang them, and from where? Are there any issues? And
No,
if
there
so-
aren't any issues. No,
Okay.
no, just certain poles, they can't hang them because of transformers, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So they already have a
Just wanted to
protocol
make
that
sure
they
that
use. Oh, yeah.
We weren't
they
gonna get
deal with
surprised later.
PSNH and all that stuff.
They made it, and Mike made it very clear in the discussion we have in the past, that that is their responsibility. They've worked with the power company
Mhm.
in the past.
Absolutely.
And so before us, you've drafted some language for the video transcript?
Well, I didn't draft the language. The actual company, CGI Communications, or Community Banner, they actually have script writers that do this for communities all around the country. And they came up with the actual language. So I had nothing to do with this. They emailed it to me, I forwarded it, got it put in a packet.
It's not so bad, I don't think. There's some things I would change, but. Okay, before we get into the actual language, does anybody have any questions about the banners?
Yeah.
All right, Counselor Capital, any questions on the banner?
I have two
Okay.
questions. One's about the
And-
banner. So should I put my light back on for the next question?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have colors been picked for the banners?
We were talking about colors such as a light blue, the same colors as our website. We kind of want to keep it pretty
The reason I'm
much the
asking,
same.
and I wish I had thought about this to bring it with me. Well, I did think about it. I just left it at the office. My husband got a letter saying that the banners were going to be black and white.
No, they're not going to be black and white. No, they're whatever color we say they are. Right now,
Banner
it's
company.
Banner Company.
Jen, did you have a?
I just, there are only two colors, maybe that, and maybe the
Yeah,
things
maybe
that they're
that's
black
it.
and white. But his logo that he bought will will be white against whatever color they choose for the background.
For the company
And maybe
logo.
it says suggest in black, example black and white.
Yes.
Okay.
Because the actual top of the top of the banner is as many colors as gets chosen for the top. But the part where the advertisement is only two colors.
Okay.
White against the background of whatever the banner is.
So if the background's this
the
purplish
background-
light blue, it'll
Right.
be white against that.
It'll be white against the blue.
Or whatever color we choose.
Well, that is going to make him very happy.
Okay, Counselor Glennon?
Mike, when you say on the first page, you want to keep everything kind of in sync with that logo you said?
Yeah, the logo, the graphic we have on the homepage of our
I'm trying to
website.
visualize that. Is that the one with the scene of the water and all that?
Well, I believe so. It says, "Welcome to Newmarket.
Yep.
Welcome to the
And-
banks
and-
of Great Bay," or something to that
And
effect.
this logo
banks of
here
Great Bay.
would not be part of it?
It would be. It would be. We're trying to work both logos in there.
Okay.
They're going to give us examples with one, the other, and one with both logos in there. So we're still at the beginning planning stage.
What I would like to see as a suggestion, if we could, is that I happened to see what the Boy Scout had done.
Mhm.
If we could get a shot of that and put that as part of that logo, I think the Boy Scouts, and the letter that you wrote, by the way, was excellent to that individual who did it. And the whole design, I was so impressed with that. If we use that and
I
as
think
part of
that design, as I recall, is the town seal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. But, I mean, I guess I'm saying, even though it's a town seal, that's a town seal, this is something somebody in the community designed, and it would reinforce the youth of this town to be creative and do things. And through the Boy Scouts, that was one way it was done. That's just my suggestion.
We could look at that option,
Can
absolutely.
you do that?
Absolutely
To look
can.
at that? And I
Yes.
think that would really go a long way with the individual and the Boy Scouts who participated in that project.
Okay.
Any more comments or questions about the banners themselves or the program where it's at? Okay, video transcript. Counselor Caparelli.
Yeah, I have, I like, this is fairly general, I like it, but it started talking about recreation and, what you can do, and I kinda like the idea somewhere in here, when we're talking about recreation, or maybe it's a different paragraph, but I think it sends a good message if we talk about all the open space properties and that we preserved and protected, and it kind of sends a message to people that we're not just soliciting business, but we're soliciting a way of life. And and if you're going to talk about recreation, the walking trails, cross-country skiing would all be incorporated into that thought process. I don't know how long it can be, or if it's already too long or too short, but I think I just think it's important that they know that whoever's watching it knows that we want to do that too. I lost my train of thought.
That's a good suggestion. I'm trying to figure out how we can go through this without spending too long on it,
Okay.
because
I
I
make
wrote
a
down little edit things, and so maybe we have a group of 2 folks that are really interested in editing this with the staff, and we just get general comments like you just made and summarize them. What's your idea?
I was going to suggest something similar, so, yeah.
Just to keep the meeting going and not have us all be editors. Which
Well, the
maybe-
community banner people did ask if we could get back to them by the end of this month if possible.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they're looking at, because they're looking at certain deadlines, is they'd like to start filming and doing this once spring breaks.
Okay.
And they want to have it all done by the fall.
They might be.
That doesn't mean it's going to
Waiting a
happen,
little
but
while.
that's what they're asking us to do.
We're actually going to see spring this year?
I hope
So, how about we do this? Anybody who, I know Scott made some changes, I made some changes. We just give them to you, Mike.
Yep.
And if anybody, who on the council would like to be involved in the actual next draft, I don't know. You know,
We could set up a
I'd be
meeting
willing to
so-
delegate it to somebody working with the staff to clean it up.
Would it be done in the next couple of weeks, a week or so? Because I'm on vacation for a couple of weeks, so I wouldn't have any problem.
That would be ideal, if we could.
Okay, I'll volunteer.
Okay, anybody else interested?
Anybody else wants to do it?
Okay.
I would also suggest, too, we have a video that was produced about 6 years ago, which has a lot of information in it. It might be good to look at that as you do this, and, you know, you might incorporate some more ideas. And certainly the video or the production that's done certainly should emphasize, like a Heron Point, maybe the Fisk Farm, and you know, the waterfront park, things like that. And by this spring, we will have some very nice signage up for those appropriate points, too.
Yeah, possibly the public gardens, too. There's some nice color in those public gardens,
Oh, yes.
or something like that, too.
Mike, when's a good time?
I'm available anytime, except Tuesday nights. That's when I teach guitar lessons at the rec center on Tuesday nights. So
Acoustic or electric?
Both.
Okay. You guys,
But any other night's
Brian,
fine.
Yeah, get back
Mike,
to
and
us.
Dana can figure out outside of the meeting when to meet.
Okay.
And each counselor can provide their
Okay, I can
comments to Al or Mike by the end of this week.
Be good if
Keep
you could
it
get them
going.
into our office to Kathy so she can disseminate them. And
Try and do it this week? Because he's on vacation and I'm flexible.
Friday?
Yeah.
I'm available anytime during the day Friday. All day Friday I'm here.
Probably tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you. Jen involved?
Oh, yes.
And we should do it at Riverworks and she'll buy us lunch.
Okay, number 9, on to the next one. Approval to sign NROC grant documents. Now,
Great,
let's see. The council, I want to explain something here. When the process for setting the agenda goes like this, it's emailed to me Wednesday by Kathy. I make comments and additions and revise the order and those descriptions, and then on Thursday I get a next draft, and it continues until Friday morning when it's finalized. And the problem with this agenda is that Al was out Thursday and Friday morning, and so when I asked her what this agenda item was, she did not know, and it's not what it says. So, what it's saying, what it's really about is the Leary Field Recreation Complex and the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant monies that the town applied for and received $100,000. What Jim Hilton has asked Al to communicate to us is that to continue the process on in terms of that grant being available for the town, should we decide to accept it, we need to submit additional information so the federal government down in DC can review and approve the 6 projects that were selected for New Hampshire by the New Hampshire folks, and because that process takes a couple months for DC to do that. So Al was hoping that tonight we would be willing to vote on authorizing the signing of additional documents and submission of them to the state for the federal government. And my understanding is that they would not bind us to definitely accepting this grant. It's kind of continuing that process, just like with the application that we got with Stratford Regional Planning Commission for the Community Economic Development Coordinator. We said, yeah, go ahead and submit it, but it's not, we don't have to accept it, and we don't have to build the athletic fields. So, I did tell Al that I thought this, that we might need to put this to the special meeting.
There was a good article in Foster's.
There was a good article in Foster's, because I told Terry that this was not properly posted by mistake, and so he put a little article in there. So, I'll hear, the council can discuss it and decide what they'd like to do. Councilor Lennon.
If we do this, are we saying that we're in we're accepting the $100,000?
Want me to respond?
Yes, Administrator Dixon.
What you're doing is you're authorizing the next step in the process. These documents right here have to be signed by me. You have to authorize that signing. It in no way commits you to accepting the $100,000. But it gets us through the process. There's going to be 6 applications sent down, 6 approved applications to DC. As Brian said, it's going to take about 2 months to get through that process because they have to vote on it. Then it comes back here, and then the governor and council votes on it. That's another easy 45 to 60 days. No money can be expended, no money can be accepted until that happens. Once the governor and council votes on it, then we need to conduct a public hearing as to whether or not we're going to accept the funds. So until we conduct that public hearing, until this goes through all that process, you are not committed to spending funds. You're
But
not.
theoretically, we're saying we're going for it.
We're saying we want to be considered. If we don't, then what happens? The next, they just look down the list and say, okay, Town of Bedford is next in line. Remove Newmarket, slip in Bedford. It goes to Washington.
Okay.
Councilor Caprielli?
So you're suggesting that because it wasn't properly posted, or it was, I missed the part about how it was posted.
Well, NROC has a different program. It's the Natural Resource Outreach Coalition. It's a UNH cooperative extension
Right.
program. And so she wrote out NROC and I ENROCK, and I was like, oh, do you mean capital N, capital ROC? Because that's what acronym I know. That wasn't the right one. So I don't,
It's
I
not a
don't.
big deal if we're, or it is a big.
It's important that we do this by the end of the month, if we're going to do it. So that's why, if we're comfortable, based on the information we have, to move forward with authorizing Al to submit it, great, let's do it tonight. If we'd like to discuss it at another meeting, I'd like to have that meeting before the end of April.
What I did is I said to Jim today, I said, Jim, I want to make sure when I speak with the council tonight, what I'm saying is correct. It's always been my understanding. This is simply the next step in the process.
Right,
Doesn't commit you to accepting funds or expending funds. In fact, no funds can be expended until this process is completed. And then the next step, the State Department takes it to the governor and council. Then the next thing we do is we conduct a public hearing, and you actually vote as to whether or not we're going to go forward with this.
But by then, we've already been accepted for.
But by then, you know that you got it. If you don't go through this process, you don't know if you have it. Okay? Well, you know you don't. You're not going to have it.
you don't.
That's right. It's very simple.
A lot of pressure, though.
Well, it's either, no, I don't think there's any
There's the-
pressure here at all.
No, I mean in the sense that if we are approved, and then we have the, I'm sorry, I didn't push my button.
Yeah, that's okay. Just go ahead, but
All right,
let's
yeah.
try to
Okay.
remember.
I guess once it's approved, it's very difficult to turn it down. So the people who are opposed it now, the people who are in favor of it, that's what I'm saying, that's where the pressure comes on to the council at that time.
Yeah, that council's going to have to make that decision.
Right.
It's probably not going to be the 7 members of this council,
Probably
based
not.
on the time frame you just said.
Yeah, right, okay.
We'll probably have to make a decision about moving forward at some level, but we will not, this council sitting here will not be making a decision about the acceptance of this funds, because it doesn't sound like they're going to get back to us
It seems to
by
me
May
that
7th or 8th.
Jim Hilton made that comment, that this was gonna have to be a process at one time. I thought he already said that we had to go
Oh, yes.
through that process. By the way, I just want to say something. The very next day, I called Jim Hilton after the last meeting, and I don't know if anybody knew this. He was here that night with pneumonia. I had no idea.
Yep.
So I think he's, my hat's off to him. He said it.
Councilor
I
Caprielli,
don't think I heard
I'm
it.
gonna make the motion that we give the town administrator approval to sign this
Your light doesn't work.
letter.
Land and Water Conservation Fund grant.
Yeah, that.
Second.
Thank you.
okay. Councilor Foster?
Fritz beat me to it.
I know.
I'm gonna stop
quiet
using
ones.
my button.
Okay, so that's good.
So we have a motion by Councilor Caprioli, seconded by Councilor Hamel, to authorize the town administrator to sign the grant documents continuing the application process for the Land and Water Conservation Fund $100,000 grant. Is that an accurate summary of the intent
Yes.
of the motion? Any discussion?
That's a good question.
Councilor Morrison?
How big of how serious of an omission was this Natural Resource Outreach Coalition? I mean,
I think it was an unintentional mistake
I-
by Kathy, and
could we still vote on this in good faith with the, that's the only question I have.
I think you
Workshop.
can. Essentially, there was a nice article in the Foster's today. Basically, I didn't receive any calls of concern. A number of people picked up agendas, and some picked up package material. And in the package material is clear that it's Land and Water Conservation Fund. And this is not a public hearing, so you're not doing a public hearing. It'll all come down the road.
That's my question.
I think that's the second.
Yeah, they're just.
any other comments or questions? Well, I had a similar question, Brian, but I think that with what has been described to me, I'm comfortable doing it as long as we make sure that when we get to the point of decisions that the council makes, whether to proceed or not, like hiring someone to do the pre-engineering, all that kind of stuff, that we have it adequately noted, and I'm sure we'll have people here who want to provide public input. So we'll make sure that happens. Any further questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, please call the roll on the motion to authorize town administrator to sign grant documents to continue the process of applying for the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant for $100,000.
Okay. Councilor Jerry Hamel?
Aye.
Councilor Caprioli?
Aye.
Councilor Morrison?
Aye.
Councilor Will Hamel?
Aye.
Councilor Glennon?
Aye.
Councilor Foster?
Aye.
Councilor Hart?
Aye.
Why don't we have a copy of that?
Okay, approval of spring cleanup week. Rick, I apologize for missing you earlier when you had your hand up. I saw it and I was gonna call on you, then I forgot. So. The Director of Public Works, Mr. Molaskis here, he's recommended that we do the spring cleanup, May 7th through the 14th, so it'd include 2 weekends and 1 weekday, or 1 week of weekdays. And this is any change from last year?
Yes. We tried that coupon program.
Yeah, please come to the microphone so everybody can see you on TV.
That didn't work out too good, so,
The coupon program?
yeah, we made them come in to get a coupon. We're gonna go back to what we did the previous year. You get 2 loads, and anything after that, you have to have the coupon. You have to
Okay.
purchase them. But we were giving out the free ones, and people waited till the last day, and like half the people didn't have a coupon, so we couldn't say no. You would've had 5,000 people here. And the people that did get a coupon were a little upset that they made the time to come get it, and these other people, then when so we tried it, but it wasn't real successful. So that's the change, really, is back to what it was the previous year with you don't need to have a coupon, you just show proof of residency, you get to bring 2 loads, and after that, you purchase a coupon.
Okay. Counselor Caprioli?
Do you know how much cleanup day cost us last year? Because
I-
that was the whole issue with the coupons, to try to see if we could.
I
manage
believe
the
it was
cost.
like 26,000 and some change.
Okay.
and we
Was it
budgeted
in the year
25.
before it was?
Right in the
29,
Yeah, right in the same
30.
area.
Yeah, it was a couple thousand.
It'd be interesting just to see what it is this year.
I can do a breakdown.
I'm just curious. Thank you.
If we did do that, we just have to lay down some rules and go by it, I think, because people were upset. That's all.
Well, I think it's easier to publicize that we're gonna do it now that we have a TV station too.
Yep.
so. And by the way, great job keeping the streets clean. I understood you came home from a weekend getaway to help out this past weekend.
Counselor Glennon?
Rick, how many people will be at that, on Saturday or during that whole cleanup week at that facility? Normally, there's only one person working on Saturday, right?
The whole crew.
The whole crew is gonna be
Yeah.
there? Okay. My other question is, the normal hours of operation currently on the Saturday is 7 to 4, right?
Yeah.
Why are we reducing it by a half hour?
No, it's 7:30 to 4.
Okay, so you're just taking the other half hour on the other end?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's so you can get to the landfill? Well, the landfill closes.
The landfill's only open till 11:30 on Saturdays.
Landfill?
The
Turnkey.
turnkey.
Oh, okay.
So we can get,
Yeah, everything, okay. And, I had another question. Oh, how are you going to track two loads?
we
How's
we
that
keep
gonna
a, we keep a list, and we try to keep the same individual taking names and stuff. And
Because the guy right now takes your license plate number.
Champagne, nobody sneaks by Dave Champagne. I
Yeah,
don't know if
trust
you've
me,
been up
I know
there.
that one, for sure.
You can't even get in the first time.
He's chief trash police.
Yeah. He does a pretty good job, though.
No, he does. He does an excellent job.
So
But
he's like gonna be there and say, okay, you were here on Monday at 7:15.
Yeah, he'll remember.
This is your third one, you know?
he'll remember.
Yeah, oh yeah, he does, he has a good memory. All right, so this is gonna be done sort of like a manual thing, not anything computerized and,
No,
all right.
we will document.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
And it doesn't, I'm sorry, it doesn't interfere with school vacation or any holidays or anything. That's been an issue too.
Oh,
Counselor
yeah,
Morrison?
that's right, too.
I was just gonna ask if we could move to accept it, because it
Sure.
sounds pretty good.
Okay, Counselor Morrison makes a motion to accept the recommended spring cleanup schedule and changes.
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion?
What?
Any discussion? All right, seeing none, please call the roll.
Counselor Jerry Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Caprioli.
Aye.
Counselor Morrison.
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Glennon.
Aye.
Counselor Foster.
Aye.
Counselor Hart.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Discuss funding request of $1,000 for the 4th of July fireworks at the Rotary Club of Durham, Great Bay. We have a letter before us. Last year, we did provide $1,000. Counselor Foster.
5,000?
1,000.
Oh, 1,000.
I make a motion that we approve the request of $1,000 to the Durham Rotary Club of Durham Great Bay.
I second it.
Okay. I'll start off the discussion and say I don't think we should do this. I know I supported it last year, but basically from reading the letter, it becomes clear that what's happening is they want to give out scholarships, and they get money at the door, and they're asking towns to contribute money, and basically what we're doing is funding the scholarship, not the fireworks. So I'm not sure if that's our role. This is a fundraiser so they can give out scholarships. They want to raise more money so they can give out more scholarships, which is great. But that's not our job. And I don't think Durham, Al, look into this. Durham doesn't provide any money as a town. Durham used to do the whole event themselves. The town council used to collect the money at the door, or at the gates, and so it's just surprising that they're asking towns for money, and Durham's not providing it, and they're the host community. So I don't think we should do it. Anybody else have any comments? Councilor Glennon?
I guess I misunderstood this, because I thought it was for the fireworks. I thought the scholarship thing was something to do with any excess money for the fireworks would be put towards that.
Right, so if we give them $1,000, they're gonna have excess money to put towards the scholarship.
And my other question is, why don't they come in during the budget process period to do this?
They were told of that process and they came in at this time.
Really?
Yes.
Now, knowing that, I've got a real concern on that one. Yeah, I really do. I have to concur with you on that one.
Councilor Caprioli?
I'll make a motion that we.
We have a motion.
Oh, we do?
Yes, Foster and Morrison made a motion to
We're in
authorize.
discussion.
Any other comments?
And Durham does not contribute.
Is that, is that,
The only thing after a discussion with Chairman Hart, I talked with Todd Selleck. This used to be a function of the town of Durham, totally. And the Great Bay Rotary Club agreed to take it over. The only thing that Durham does at this point, from my understanding with Todd, is they provide a police detail or coverage for security, which we do at our fireworks.
at Old Hoboken and
Yes.
Main Street,
Yes.
the Heritage Festival?
No other monetary, but it used to be totally
Realize that.
town of Durham.
What
Ca-
about the turkeys and the cleaning up 152? That doesn't.
You got to
Well,
understand,
remember-
you're talking the
yeah.
service club.
That's
And-
their mission,
Mhm.
is to do stuff like that.
But you don't think we should be funding it just because it's not going all to the fireworks? It's
Well,
going to
we-
scholarship?
We'd have to also designate where the money comes out, so it would have to come out of our town council's, whatever it's called, contingency account, so. Counselor Caprioli, Counselor Foster, and then,
You already answered.
Counsel-
already.
okay. Counselor Foster?
I brought this up to get it moving. The one thing I will point to this, and I do have some concerns. I always get concerned when things like this become politicized. The Stratum Fair obviously went through some problems recently and everything. The one thing I do like is that they're taking, even though we're donating 1,000, if they're taking 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 and double or tripling that, I think that's a good thing. Whereas a lot of other places, you give them 1,000 and then they just might give two $500 scholarships. If they're taking $1,000 and they're able to, through whatever reasons, turn that into $6,000 and then turn out and give away two $3,000 scholarships, then I think that's a good thing. However, I mean, and obviously if Durham is, they're giving a place and they're giving the police detail, they might not be giving monetarily, but they are definitely donating or contributing. But just to put that in.
Counselor Glennon?
I guess knowing this information now, my question would be, is there anybody in the town of Newmarket, and I'm sure there are, that could use that $1,000 towards a scholarship? It's probably a question that should be asked to the school, but
I think it says in the letter that they give 2 scholarships a year to the schools, to
Right.
each school of each town. $1,000 each, so they give $2,000 in scholarships for $1,000 a year, just to the school.
So we're doubling our money.
That's how I'm reading it.
And it's not to say that if we didn't give the 1,000, that they would stop donating the money to that school. But if everyone all of a sudden stopped donating, you'd have to wonder where the money is coming from. It is bothersome that this did not, if they were specifically told that this should come in during the budget timeline, and it didn't, that's bothersome.
And wasn't there a provision in that we might not accept it if it wasn't in the proper, submitted
Yeah.
through the proper channels?
That's the budget time.
No, budget time would be
That's
October, November.
Everything's supposed to be in by.
I think so, that we're not supposed to submit for the actual budget. They're asking for money out of this year's budget versus next year's budget.
But didn't we talk about this like 4 months ago?
The fireworks?
No.
I think so. Here's my only suggestion. I'm gonna vote no on giving them the money. Then I suggest that maybe we send them a letter saying, if you'd like to have funding, submit it to us in the process. Unfortunately, our current budget has already been passed, so you'll have to submit it next year for the next year's budget. And we'll consider it at that time. That's my thought. Let's not spend a huge amount of time on this. It's not super critical. Any more urgent thoughts?
I like that.
I like that too.
Okay, please call the roll on the motion to authorize $1,000 to the fireworks.
Counselor Jerry Hamel.
Nay.
Counselor Caprioli.
Yay.
Counselor Morrison.
Nay.
Counselor Will Hamel.
Nay.
Counselor Glennon.
Nay.
Counselor Scott Foster.
Nay.
Counselor Hart.
Nay.
Motion carried.
Failed.
Well, yeah.
Carried over to the edge and dropped.
Carried.
Carried in a negative
7-0.
way.
Yeah.
But there will be a letter sent.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll send a letter.
Okay.
Carried out on its shield.
Planning board report, Counselor Caprioli. You
Was it
provide us
there?
a nice written one, yes.
It was very busy planning board night. On the March 1st meeting, although I wasn't in attendance, I did have a chance to speak briefly with Clay about how that workshop went, and he is in the process of drafting an ordinance for the urban service boundary
Oh, great.
line. I'm not sure when we'll see it, but I know he's in the process. March 8th, regular business meeting. I'm gonna skip down to the items, and I'll get back to the public comment section. 2 Bennett Way, that was approved. Roseanne and Charles Quox, Wadley Falls Driving Range, the amendment to the site plan for the hours of operation was approved with a condition that the lights closest to the Rosa property be shut off at 9 PM in the spirit of compromise, and that the parking lot had to be cleared and people out and lights off by 10:15.
Did they specify the lights? Specific
Yes.
lights?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, I certainly
Want
did.
to make sure we know.
I certainly did. Brant, 35 Great Street, that was a minor subdivision for converting a 2-family into condo units. And that was approved with a condition that there be 2 separate water hookups or meters for the building. Bryant Rock, they've come to us with a major site plan and a special use permit for 10 residential units and an office up above on the 3rd floor, I think. Yeah, and residential units on the 1st and 2nd floors. And that's been continued to a site walk on the 26th at 9 AM. I urge the council to go, look at the site. If you're able
It's a
to do
select
it.
board.
I think it's a big project. I mean, it's this old Selectwood building.
Yeah.
When I say big, maybe not in size, but in restoration.
Scope. Lots of work for that
So,
building.
I think it's good. Joyce's Kitchen withdrew their application. Robin Realty Trust was an application for a subdivision special use permit at 36 Dame Road. The application was continued to the April 12th meeting. The applicant needs to meet with the planner. It's the first application under our new open space ordinance, and there's some kinks on the lot calculation that need to be addressed, so he's gonna work with Clay on that. And Stone Church was before us to amend their site plan to allow for a 1,000 square foot outside patio. And that would be with 60 seats. The applicant anticipates having acoustical entertainment, a place to smoke, and dining outside on the patio. This was approved with the condition that there would be no food or beverage service or music outside after 10 PM. But patrons would be allowed to go out there, and it's kind of a designated smoking area for John, because right now, people are just going out throwing their butts everywhere, and he's getting, frustrated, and at least if there's a place for them to go, it'll all be localized.
Plus, they're walking through neighbors'
Correct.
yards, and there's
Yeah.
no way to keep track of who's allowed to come back in.
Yeah. The other thing, and Mrs. Berger is here, she had addressed the town council, I don't even know what meeting I'm at anymore.
Planning board.
The planning board, and wanted to know about the water situation, and I'm hoping she'll get an opportunity to speak. I misspoke earlier this evening to her, thinking I was at a regular business meeting, and thought there would be public comments, so and then when I sat back up here and you said there wasn't public comments, and I'm like, oh no. But she had specific questions about, I think more or less you're checking on the status, what's going on. You want to know when the town was notified by the state, who knew about it, are they being held accountable, and why are we not doing anything with regards to development for water? Is that correct? That's how I understood it. And a few board members and myself tried to explain that we're doing something about it, and most importantly, that we are following what the law requires us to do. And why why we're not still stopping development. I explained to her that we were working on the urban service boundary line, and I told her I'd bring this question to the council, because we can't stop development unless we have I forget the word.
Moratorium?
Moratorium, and you need, to get a moratorium,
interim.
it's pretty
Difficult.
difficult.
Intense, yeah.
So, I don't know if, did I,
Sort of.
okay.
Um,
Am I allowed to speak?
it's not that I don't want to hear your
I
comments.
just want somebody to answer my question.
All right, if you come up to the microphone,
Okay.
we'll try to do that. I'll give 5 minutes for
5
this.
minutes, thank you, that's all. 2002, Newmarket was notified that as of 2004, the chlorine byproducts in the water supply were going to be monitored. At that time, in 2002, the water supply was already in trouble. Everybody knew the Lamprey River was not ever going to be able to be treated well enough with, I don't care how much chlorine, to make it drinkable. Now, there's a regulation, somebody in the town is notified 2 years ago that 2 years down the road, we can no longer use the Lamprey River as a water source. At that time, I want to know why the planning board, if they were not notified, why they weren't, because they're the ones that have to get the information as to whether or not there is water support for the town. And why this urban service boundary that everybody's so excited about now was not put into the works in 2002 to be proactive and still wait instead of waiting until it was federally mandated. That's my question. I want to know who knew at 2002 why the planning board was not notified, or if they were, I'd think they were negligent in approving development, knowing that the water supply was going to be in trouble effective 2004. That's all.
Okay, I'll answer the second part, and I'll ask the town administrator to try to answer the first part if he can. The second part is that, as far as I'm aware, there haven't been any substantial developments that were approved by the town planning board since 2002 that are on the water system, other than Bryant Rock, which, if I understand correctly, would be within the service boundary area that we've discussed. Anyway, the new Cherry Hill area, I'm not trying to use that name for any particular reason, but that general area where all the large condominium complexes that are being built now was approved back in the 80s, and they had approved and current permits for water connections that we could not take away without going to court and spending money to defend that, and it wasn't really a legal action. So when I hear that there's a lot of development happening, it's true. There is a lot of development happening, but it's off the water system.
That's
And
my
this-
question. How do I know that it's off the water system? Bryant Rock is on the water system.
That's correct.
The elderly housing next to me is on the water system.
Yep.
All the new homes that are close to town are on the water system.
What new homes would those be?
Any that are on 108, up or down Bay Road a little bit, those are on town water.
Yeah, there haven't been, the new developments are Lady
I'm
Slipper.
not talking about development specifically. I'm talking about individual hookups. I mean, every little bit counts. If we didn't have quality water at 2002, I think there should have been a moratorium then until the water supply was figured out. That's what I'm saying. That's what I don't get.
Well, I can't answer backwards. I'll let the town administrator try to do that, and I'll just say that right now, we have 4 different options that we're exploring to address the problem. You heard about one of them tonight, which we decided not to do right now.
I have the whole Metcalfe study,
Yep.
and their final conclusion was the only thing that would work would be a new water plant.
That was in terms of the water plant, yes.
Yes.
They didn't study Fallsbrook. They didn't study new well sources. So we're looking at Fallsbrook as a supplemental source, and we're looking at new well sources in other parts of town as a secondary source as well. And before we jump to spend $15 to $20 million like Exeter, which I think would have a similar difficult time passing in Newmarket, we need to explore the other options, and that's the path we're taking right now.
Do you know how much we've already spent with Metcalfe and Eddy for what they've done so far?
That study, 60,000 wasn't it? Or
No,
50?
about 50.
$50,000 for that study.
They tell us what we already knew.
Well, that's a very simplistic answer,
Yes.
but not all the details of what they told us. We did not know all of that. And to simplify to that is being unfair. Town Administrator Dixon?
I think that we've already addressed this before at a meeting that Mrs. Berger was at downstairs with Bob Mann and other officials present from the state. The board, all communications comes in to the town hall is dispensed to the town council. I initial it, sign off, it's photocopied, it gets to the town council. Town council at the time was aware of it. I would say that in 2002 we were delivering water that met all standards of the drinking water, or all drinking water standards at that time. We were aware of the 2004 rules that were being proposed. We also, many of us, felt that perhaps maybe, since this impacted so many towns, involved so much money for all the towns in infrastructure improvements, that there may be some deferral of those implementation dates, which often does happen. Many times they'll come out with new rules and regulations, and they're going to take effect in 2006. Ultimately, they don't take effect till 2008. So a lot of municipal officials, including Exeter, and including several of our surrounding communities, knew that if that rule went into effect in 2004, they would have problems with that rule. We weren't alone. And I do agree with Chairman Hart. We've been looking at options. We've been trying to devise means of trying to operate our plant in compliance, but all that was futile. And we faced it, and we shut it down. Doesn't mean we can't operate it. Exeter has to operate their plant until they have a new plant, and they're going to be violating that rule. But Exeter has voted twice on a $16 million bond issue. It's been refused twice. I think what this council is trying to do, and what previous council and what the administration is trying to do, is find a solution, but as cheap as possible. We are also looking at recharge. There's a possibility. Town council authorized an RFP be developed for a study on recharge, because there's not an extensive amount of data available in New Hampshire on recharge systems. Although Dover has been recharging from the Isinglass and the Bellamy River for the last probably 10, 15 years. There is no data. I think there are some of us that feel that a recharge could be a simple, less costly solution, but we need to know what the ramifications are. So, in essence, we all knew that the rules were being proposed. We all hoped that maybe they would be extended, but I think we would be dealing with the same fate if we tried to push in 2002 prematurely a plant at $12 to $15 million in the town of Newmarket. And there's a lot more users to spread that cost around in Exeter than there are in Newmarket. And I think the projections are $70 per thousand.
Double.
Okay? If that's the case, that same level of investment in Newmarket, based on the users, and this is just a wild, off-the-cuff guess, if Exeter is looking at $70 a thousand, we'd be looking at $100 a thousand. And that would get people's attention and probably cause them to react negatively to a bond issue, regardless of what they were drinking.
They can't drink the water, they probably aren't liquor anyway.
Well, Exeter is drinking the water. You can drink the water.
I know that, I'm not talking about Exeter, I'm talking about Newmarket.
Our water right now is great.
It's coming
It's
from
coming
the
from the
wells.
wells.
I know, but you know, that's, now.
And we're working to make sure there's good water in years to come. There's 4 prongs going. If it was as easy as saying yes to a plant, we might have done that, but it's not that easy.
I know it's not that easy.
Okay. Let's see. So, did anybody have any questions for Councilor Capriello on the planning board report? Okay, Wilfred, I saw your light, but I wasn't sure if that's what it was about.
In case we're privy to it, Joyce's Kitchen, we gave, at the Conservation Commission meeting, we gave them our blessing. I'm just wondering, how come they withdrew, do you know?
I don't know. I don't know why they withdrew.
Hmm.
Someone, I just someone said something to the fact that they did not have the permission to represent Brooks at the meeting, which, because Brooks hasn't sold them the property or leased them the property or whatever it is Brooks is gonna do with that property for them, then a Brooks representative has to be there. They have to have a letter from Brooks saying that they can come in and go through this process with that property. And I think the other reason was that Brooks felt that the building was too close to the road
You have a block their sign
and blocked their side,
to who they are, their identity.
Okay.
I think.
Counselor Glennon?
My only question is that when you talk Bryant Rock, I always thought Bryant Rock was the stone structure.
Yeah, it's Brian Rock LLC. It's the name, Schimberg named the company that for whatever reason.
Oh, is that what he did? He named the company. Okay, so I was like, wow, did Bryant Rock get bigger? Somehow they added on somewhere? Okay, thank you.
Just to update in terms of planning board stuff, Peter Eggleston from Smutty Nose is hosting he'll be going before the planning board on April 12th, I think, for a preliminary non-binding consultation on his proposal, which is a good step. I also think he's doing some kind of abutting landowner private meeting to get input from folks.
But he's having something at the Stone Church, right?
Right, that's what that is. It's
What
private.
day is that on?
I don't remember, but he's invited
Not in a
people
butter,
to
you're
it.
not invited.
No, because
He might have invited people. I don't know who he invited, but he's invited people to it, so I don't want to announce when it is because it's his event. The public, so I know he's invited like Rivermore and stuff like that, people that are nearby.
Yeah, and he has invited Cruises Garage and things like that. And I'm like, what?
I think he invited the business association.
Did
So
you
that's
invite
probably,
the council?
I don't know, probably not, apparently not.
You know where we stand.
Great. Discussion of town policy on photocopying by appointed elected officials. That's the next one, right?
And that number 6 going down after that?
Yeah,
Is it number 6? No, number 5.
whatever yeah, it depends on which agenda
6.
you're looking at.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Oh, yeah, I'm looking at the wrong one. Okay. Can I
think-
lead off on that?
yep, Council Glenn.
Okay, this is my thought, and I certainly understand to why the administration needs to have a better control of who's photocopying and, department-wise and all that. However, I would like to know, at this point, is there anybody here on this council who has a pass to get into the photocopying and photocopying?
You need a pass?
The photocopier was,
Yes, I don't have
the
one.
photocopier was changed to have a account password. It was a suggestion I made. I do not have a passcode. Anybody else have one?
Well, I think it was more than a suggestion you made. It was at the budget
Yeah,
workshop.
I suggested, well, I suggested it,
And everybody can.
once we got the new
agreed.
copier.
Yep, everybody agreed.
My concern there is, I myself as a counselor, we're the governing body of this town, and to shut off the photocopying to the council. Now, I can understand possibly some other boards, and I don't want to speak for them, but myself as a counselor, I had a situation not that long ago, and you ran into the same situation, Mr. Chairman, that we needed to photocopy something. Mine was for a resident in the town. They wanted a copy of the minutes of a meeting that hadn't been approved yet, and I could have possibly said, go see Al and you'll get it. But I had it, and I wanted to make a photocopy of it. Well, I ran down to the movie stop and made the copies, which was $1.70. A lot of people think that's not a lot of money, and it probably isn't. And I don't want to have to start taking my receipts and running back to the town hall, which is only going to create more paperwork for the administration to give me back my $1.70.
Well, let's correct something first. If I want a copy of the minutes as a member of the public, I have to pay for them. So if they're going to come to town hall, it's going to cost more than $1.70. It's
Okay.
50 cents for the first page.
Okay, but I guess even with you at the parking committee meeting, you needed to go in there, and somehow you generated the copies. I don't know how you did that, but,
It was, the copier was on, like I said.
well, that surprises me, and I'm not calling you a liar, because there was only 3 of us here that night that had keys for that. You were one, I were one, and Rick Malasky was the other one. Rick and I walked in somewhat together. He never left the council chambers.
I
And
was
you had
in that.
asked them.
Dana, what, if the issue is the policy on photocopying, let's decide what we want it to be.
Well, I want to
Al-
give discussion to why I feel this way.
I understand
you
that.
know? And there was never any minutes taken at those budget hearing meetings, so the public would never be aware of that either.
It's,
that the
but this
council
is an
decided
administrative
that.
issue. For the council even to discuss whether or not we should have free access to a photocopier, I think is literally absurd.
You do?
I do.
Okay. And you're telling me there's an administrative decision?
It is an administrative decision, just like it is about where the mailboxes are, whether or not we get the police to deliver them to us.
Right.
So if the council wants to tell the administration that each committee should have one person who gets a code, or the council should have a code, fine.
I really do
But I
think we
think that
should,
this
because
is
when I
something that-
sit back and I look at the whole process, and here's where I'm coming from, okay? I don't have a photocopy machine. Mr. Hamill has a business, he probably could use his. Ms. Caprioli has a business, she could probably use hers. I'm not saying you're going to do it, but there's that opportunity. Scott, you have, and Mr. Chairman, you have. The only 2 people, 3 people that don't have access to a copier within the business would be Mr. Hamill here, and Brian over there, and myself. So you're kind of penalizing us.
What's
I
the-
don't like the
but
idea
I
of
don't
saying it's an
use-
administrative decision. The administrative decision is a council decision.
It's
So-
an administrative decision because it's running the town government. Access to the photocopier, the policy on how much it costs per page is set by the town administration. Just like, other things related to the functioning of this building. And there's no penalizing involved, because if you have a document that you want to distribute to a meeting and you email it to Kathy or you bring it in, she'll copy it.
That's not always possible. Somebody originally told me, you have to come in when Kathy's here. I'm like, baloney.
Or you come in and you leave it at the door and say, please copy for the meeting tonight and leave my
We're
box.
the governing body of this town. We should have the right to use that copier.
Fine, make a motion to that effect and we'll see if the full council agrees.
Any other discussion on it, though? Does anybody else
Right.
feel this way?
Brian?
Council Wilfred Hamill has his light on, sorry.
Yeah, all this business that might come up, is it on a weekend, on a Saturday, Sunday, when Kathy's not around? Are you talking about, or can it wait till Monday morning, or? Because.
No, because I have a job. I have to work.
Well, I've left, of course, I've cured my problems sometimes, so I need a lot of stuff copied for the Conservation Commission. My password is Kathy. I'll ask Kathy, will you do this? Well, I'll leave her a note,
Right.
and, no,
I know you're being serious. You are serious, and I understand it, and I appreciate
I
that.
really use that copier through Kathy, but, I try to plan ahead and give her the message, and she gets it done.
But
Puts it in
here's my
box.
thought. I walk in after work, the town hall is closed, I see something in my mailbox that might impact another committee that I'm on. I just would want to turn around, photocopy that, and have that ready to go with me, without having to make a trip all the way back down to the town hall and give it to Kathy and say, would you photocopy this? And put it back in my mailbox. I mean, I serve on a number of boards, and I would just like to have that opportunity. If you're looking really at who's spending the money on the photocopying, you have that ability by giving the council a code. And if it's the council that's doing it, then you question the council on it. Don't penalize the whole council because somebody is running a lot of copies. So, I would like to make a motion that the council be given a password which would be the same for all the councilors to use.
We each have the same password?
No, I don't want the same password if I get a password.
Well, then we all have separate passwords then. Does the planning department have each a separate password in there?
The employees, no.
So why can't we be one body?
Okay, just make your motion. What's your motion?
My motion is that the council is given a password to use the photocopier.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilor Caprioli seconds it. Can we just clarify, are you individual councilors the same password, or that's what's not clear on the motion? Or does the council have a password, like 7,000 for everybody on the council is 7,000?
I would think that'd be easier for the administrator.
Doesn't have any control over the copying then, but okay.
I don't want to make it complicated for anybody.
Councilor Morrison,
I
And then-
forgot what I was going to say.
Counselor Wilfred Hamel?
Not to make it difficult with your problem, but wasn't the reason why this came up, the excessive amount of paper that was being used? It was, there had to be a reason, and if I remember right, it was an awful lot of paper being used, and nobody could track who was doing it.
So you track us like everybody else.
Counselor Foster?
I think I might have missed the actual meeting where this was discussed. I do know, however, previously, there have been discussions about what was being copied and who had access to certain things and who was making copies of what. So I think that might be part of it as well. Someone having the ability to make a copy of something that's sitting there that maybe they should not be distributing necessarily.
I don't support the motion, as you probably figured out. I don't support it whether it's individual passwords or a password for the whole council. If we have stuff that we need copy, we need to be responsible enough to get it in on time and ask for Kathy to copy it. If we think it should go to another committee, we should ask her to distribute to them. And if we want to give it to people who might be interested in it, that are friends or colleagues or just interested in that issue, they should pay for it. Counselor Morrison.
Will, how long about, would you say, does it take Kathy to get your photocopies done? If you get them to her, say, Monday morning?
If I left her a note, it would be if I come back through town at noon, it'd be at noon, or
So pretty, like, same-day service kind of thing?
most of the time, it was right there while I was standing there waiting. It's just certainly a same day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it seems like that's a pretty
I
good
mean, I've had
system.
good luck with it.
If you walked in and needed 10 or 15 copies of something, it could be done within minutes.
Right, or if I dropped it off before work, kind of thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I couldn't figure out how you copy both sides, 7 sheets, and staple it, so.
It was you trying to figure out how to do it, that's all their paper went.
Every time I try to use it,
Al,
I jam it.
Can we get a box in the photocopy room that is an inbox for Kathy? So
Sure.
if we come after hours and we get, because I've left stuff behind, like, I don't know, I've just left stuff like the Piscassic River Loisel property report. I just dropped it at the front door because there's not a box to put it in. The note, Kathy, I don't need this anymore. So if we could have a box there, maybe that would help for a place to people to locate things to go to.
Good idea.
Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, please call the roll.
Counselor Jerry Hamel.
Yeah, I've got to vote against this.
That's a nay.
Nay.
Counselor Caprioli.
Nay.
Counselor Morrison.
Nay.
Counselor Will Hamel.
Nay.
Counselor Glennon.
Aye.
Counselor Foster.
Nay.
Counselor Hart.
Nay.
Motion failed. 6-1.
I should convince himself after
I
this.
could
Okay. We take a brief recess to go use the
Yes.
facilities.
Thank you.
Second.
Brief recess. We'll be back in 5 minutes, and we'll start with the agenda.
Yeah. I can give you the password, maybe.
No, I don't want I can't remember passwords.
Okay, let's go do that.
Did we take a recess?
Yes.
Where was I on that one?
Sit and listen. When we caucus, obviously provide some comment.
Walked out. That's pretty good.
We're gonna get as far as we can.
Good.
We have like a deadline,
When
10
he
o'clock?
starts the meeting again.
We talk quietly. Because we did that land and water conservation plan. So the resolution that references the order is 2000-14, and It has a specific order of business: Pledge of Allegiance, public forum, minutes of the meeting, presentation of petitions, report of the town administrator, standing committees, nominations, old business, new business, adjournment. So we've basically been following that, except that I've been giving Chris Hawkins the privilege as a representative of the school board to come before us earlier in the agenda in order to not have to have him tortuously sit through 2 hours of a meeting.
Where should he come in?
Number 6?
He would come in underneath,
Public does.
well, but Chris is, it's not Chris, it's if it was anybody on the school board or anybody on a board that has to go to a meeting 3 or 4 hours a night, once or twice a week, the rest of the year. In addition, I was just doing a courtesy, that's all. And we often do move agenda items around if there's a lot of people from the public for a specific item. So I'm not sure if we necessarily need to act to revise this, or if I just need to get the message that if we're gonna give that privilege, the council as a body wants to say yes to it.
Say
At
that
a
again,
meeting.
say yes to,
So the next meeting, when we have the business meeting,
we would vote whether or not the school board
Chris
rep.
would be on the agenda in the normal order, and then I would ask I'd ask the meeting, can we move Chris up to this point in the agenda? And if the council didn't want to, they wouldn't. That's just an example. Because you have the authority by a 2/3 vote, which is what we did last time.
Yeah,
By Wilfred's
it-
suggestion.
It states that in here somewhere.
Yeah, it
that-
does, it
that-
does.
Yeah, I don't object to having anybody, you doing that with anyone. It's just that, it's
Procedure.
written there, so why not do it that way?
Okay.
And to be honest with you, I thought when you were doing that was because Chris, I think one time he did leave to go to another meeting, but the last time he sat here for the whole evening, and I'm thinking to myself, why was he first?
Counselor Morrison?
Thanks, Ron.
Do we need a motion on this or anything? Or
No,
do we do
well-
just to acknowledge that there's a procedure we weren't doing and that we'll do it from now on?
Yeah, I think so. I just want to make sure. And then, in terms of the agenda, if you have agenda items that you want on, again, I haven't gotten any requests really. Maybe they've gone to Al, which is fine. Contact Al or me or Kathy by Wednesday-ish, Thursday of the week before the meeting, and then, we'll try to get on the agenda. I had to say no to agenda item that Wilfred wanted because we had 17 items. And I said, I think I'm already going to get killed by the council, so.
Killing the word.
So again, I invite folks to request things to be put on the agenda, and I try to be really fair about doing that and getting it on as soon as possible, and not shutting out anybody from having a conversation about what's important to them, even if I don't think it's a priority. So, okay. I think I've been censured. I have been censured, yes. That's okay. All right. The next one is, what is it, minutes?
Yes.
Because we moved it up.
I had a question on that.
And this was at the request of a couple people. So, Counselor Glennon?
I guess I would like to ask Helen, once you take the minutes of the meeting, and I think you and I have had this conversation at the last business meeting, I had asked you to step aside, just so the council knows that we're not doing things behind the council's back, but I wanted to get a clear sense of what was happening. I think I asked you at the time, what happens like when you leave tonight with the minutes? You said basically what I do is I take the tape recorder and your handwritten notes and it goes over to Kathy.
I take them home and I transcribe them, and then I proofread them, and then I email them to Kathy.
That's not what you told me the last time.
Yes, I did.
Excuse me, let me just finish, because I asked you, what happens to them?
I take these tapes home and I transcribe them at home.
Okay. That, to me, is not what I heard last time, because when I asked you specifically, what happens to the minutes of the meeting, you said, well, physically, I don't do anything when I get home. That's one. No, I don't mean you have to transcribe them when you get home. I think the question I asked you was, are you capable of transcribing? And you said, yes, of course I am. That's okay. And you had said to me at that time, at least this is what I thought I heard, was that you then take it, you either give it to Mike, your husband, he takes it and gives it to Kathy, or you bring it in
No,
yourself.
I did not tell you that.
Let me finish, please, okay? At that point, I said, so you are capable of transcribing, because I had a conversation with Kathy Castle. When I asked her where on the minutes of a particular meeting, it had exceeded 144 hours, which is required by RSA, that should be available to the public. And Kathy said to me, well, I don't quite have them done. It was something like 9 days later. And I said, you haven't got them done yet? She says, no. And I said, okay. Kathy, what's the process here? She says, well, I have to transcribe them. And then what I do is I give them to Evelyn. Evelyn has to read them and proofread them. And then it comes back down through the chain. So immediately it set up a flag is that there were just too many people involved with the minutes of the meeting. And to be honest with you, the minutes of the meeting still have to go back periodically to be corrected. And that's where I was coming from, saying to myself, there's just too many people handling these minutes. And that's possibly why we're not getting them within 144 hours, which is required by RSA. And RSA says in a private, non-public, they got to be available within 72 hours. So I just wanted clarification is, if you're capable of doing that, why can it not be the same way I think the planning board does? That person takes it, transcribes it, and then it's given to the planning board. It doesn't go through all these hoops.
I do take it home and transcribe it, and that's what I did tell you.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that we understand the process. So you're taking minutes now. You write down the motions because I know we have to repeat them
Yes.
when we mumble them and
Yes.
when I mumble them.
Well, I listened to the tape to make sure
correct them.
and confirm that everything is done correctly.
All right, and then you write up the minutes of the meeting
Yes.
and send it on to Kathy.
After
Whether-
I proofread them, I send them to Kathy. She proofreads it to make sure that I don't have any, like, errors or any names misspelled. Because I don't know all the names in this town.
Okay. And Al, if Evelyn's involved, is it because Kathy doesn't have enough time, or?
Between the two of them, they work to get that edification that was transcribed, was emailed, and is emailed to Kathy from Helen. Yes, so between the two of them, they get the job done.
Okay. So, all right, Counselor Foster?
I think one of the problems I have with the minutes is the length, and that's not your fault. I just don't see why we have to write everything that's said. And I think one of the reasons the planning board meetings probably get done in a much more timely manner is because if you look at planning board minutes and you look at our minutes, there's no comparison. Planning board minutes say, so-and-so spoke regarding. They do not say the 23 sentences that that person said. If we had a gentleman stand up here and talk about the Cemetery Trust Committee for 15 minutes, it would just say, the gentleman spoke about this, I really think that we're doing overkill. Someone really needs to, if someone really wants to find out what was said at the meeting, that's what we have the tape for, and now we also have television for. So I would like to see a much briefer set of minutes, which would also make it easier for approving, and also we wouldn't have to get into details such as changing a word because you quoting me on a sentence that I said and you use one word wrong out of 10 of my sentences. So I don't know if that's something that we can do and if we can ask her to do. But I think they're overkill right now. Again, not your fault, just the way you've been told to do it.
We have the minute. There's a
Excuse me.
memo from Melody that outlines what state law requires, and it's actually very short. It says, members of the meeting, members of the committee, persons appearing before the body, a brief description of the subject matter discussed, and final decisions, which would be motions, or if we have consensus. And then they will be available for public inspection within 144 hours, which is 7 days. And I agree we should do that.
That's another question, it's RSA.
And, what?
It's an RSA.
Yeah, okay.
No, I mean, I'm just referring, you said I approved that, and I'm like, what's RSA?
I agree that it should be, and if it's not happening, we should figure out how we can make it happen. So then the only other thing is, in terms of our own process, we have our own resolution from 2002, which mirrors that state law very closely. The contents shall include the names of all council members present and absent, brief description of the subject matter discussed, a brief abstract of each speaker's comments, motions, and votes recorded. So the only difference is that our current internal rules resolution is that it says an abstract of speaker's comments, which is difficult to do unless you're very good at that. So, for example, how would we summarize some of the comments without misrepresenting them or misquoting people? So we might want to consider removing that portion, or understanding that that's a really short thing, like 2 sentences per person. Even if they spoke for 5 minutes, it's a very brief summary. That's my thought on it. Administrator Dixon, and then Councilor Glennon.
Yes. Scott Foster, Councilor Foster, mentioned can it be done? Yes, the answer is it can be done. And in most cases, in the past, when I've had councils and various towns with minutes, it's exactly what they'd be. They would list the agenda item, the motion, the second, the person made the second, fact that there was a brief discussion regarding XY point, and then the vote. And that was very appropriate. There wasn't any of this he said, she said, you said, back and forth stuff. And generally we would have meetings that would last 3 or 4 hours that would be maybe 3 or 4 pages, and very reasonable. I know here minutes have been really an issue because we got to the point where it would take all evening just on discussing whether or not we were going to accept the minutes. This was prior to this board.
That's good.
And there was a lot of edification because this person said, I said this, I want to be quoted, and this and that. So we've had a hard time getting minutes, and we actually had a few people quit because taking minutes because they were just totally frustrated.
Councilor Glennon, and then Councilor Caprioli.
One of my biggest issues is, well, first of all, when we're talking about a rough draft, because when I had talked to Kathy, and there was another resident in this town who also came and tried to get the minutes, they were not ready. Once they got the minutes, they read through it, called Kathy and said, this is absolutely nothing to what was really discussed at that meeting. So now we find out when we got the minutes, it was all in there. And I said to the individual, give him a chance to put it all together, because it is just a final draft, not a final draft, it's a rough draft. Now, my only concern is that we get these minutes in a timely fashion. Because you can, when we get it in our packet, okay, to read, that's one thing. But I guess what I would like to see is those minutes provided to us in a timeline such as, even if it's marked draft on it, I don't care, in our mailboxes after that 144 hours, and not wait until our packets are delivered to us.
We can agree on some abbreviated minutes, which really serve the intent of the law. We certainly can have the minutes, the official minutes, available within just a few days of the meeting.
Yeah, I don't think we have a choice about getting it ready within 7 days, whether it's short or long. So let's maybe my suggestion is that Al work with Kathy and Helen and whoever else to narrow down and shorten to make it more concise, but within the intent of the law and our resolutions, and to have a copy in the boxes marked draft within 7 days for the council. And then when the agenda comes out, I don't need another copy. I don't want another copy of the minutes in the agenda. We got it once, and we
Right.
should be able to keep
And I would
it
agree.
and stack it together and read them. And that way we don't have to waste all the paper.
Great.
Especially when we delay minutes a couple times and they get in each packet. So that's my suggestion. Councilor Foster?
Yeah, and I would just say again, use the planning board minutes as as a starting point, because again, they'll have a 3-hour meeting, and it's 2 or 3 pages max.
The other thing with the planning board is they can get very long because they're a judicial board, so their things get reviewed by a court way more often than ours ever would. So there's like a different degree of specificity, I think, in a planning board one as well.
So you're thinking they should be more or less?
Less. Because I don't think planning boards are 3 pages. I've gotten them. They're like 8.
I've gotten plenty that are 3.
Yeah, I don't know. We all get them. We get the
Yeah.
planning board ones.
So,
Helen?
What about when we have a public hearing or a public forum? How would
You just like, okay, if Tito spoke, you'd say Tito Bulia at 1 Elm Street spoke. He spoke in support of or against, and if he gave like really concise reasons, you might want to list those. But we don't need to know exactly what Tito said.
Right.
Sorry.
Especially
Not
when it's,
picking on you.
if you're talking about the open forum before a business meeting,
Verbatim, you don't need it.
definitely not. You know, then it's just, Tito came upset about something, again.
The woman who was complaining about the water. I'm sorry, I can't think of her name.
Debbie Berger?
Debbie Berger.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't. My light?
Yeah, we should just,
I'm sorry.
let's try to keep the free flow to a minimum. But go ahead, Brian.
Where was I going to go with that? She didn't really do anything other than sort of reiterate her initial statement. Sort of, you know, and so that's all you'd need to put.
I would
in the
say,
minutes,
like,
is just like
Mrs. Berger expressed her concerns that the town did not properly react when first notified about the disinfection biotic rule in 2002.
right, a sentence, because that's
it.
Yeah,
That's a concise-
summation seems to be the key. You know, and if it's not illegal, I guess I'm in favor of that.
No, it's totally, that's beyond the intent of the law. The law says, brief abstract of the discussion. It doesn't necessarily say get everybody from the public, but our resolution says an abstract of each speaker's comments, which makes it a little bit longer. So maybe we could try it for a little while, and then if we don't like it, it's still too long or it's taking too long, then we go back to just what state law is, which is a abstract of our comments and our motions and votes, and who is here. Councilor Jerry Hamill, and then Administrator Dixon.
Yeah, do we have videotapes now and audio tapes that back up these meetings?
I think it's, well, I guess it would be both, yeah.
And how long are those kept?
We'll keep the videos for something like 3 to 4 years, at least.
Oh, okay.
I don't think we made a determination on that.
We should
And-
maybe set a policy.
Yeah, and I think we gotta look at what the state archives would respond to. Generally, it's your written record that is important to keep, okay, in perpetuity. But, you know, if you have, it depends on the council meeting. If you have a council meeting that's very contentious, and there could be some litigation come out of it, then that video should be kept until such time as the
thread is gone.
Yeah, the thread is gone, okay? And if I could just make one suggestion, maybe in the area of public hearings that could help, because we go back and forth. I've had the occasion where the chair conducting the public hearing would set the rules and ask to receive testimony from proponents and then opponents, so that you have everyone who is in favor testifying. It makes it easier for the note-keeping. And then you have everybody who is in opposition. That way you get a lot less, I think, sometimes redundancy.
Or back and forth.
Yeah, exactly.
We can consider that. Did you try to push your button and it didn't
I
work?
thought I had it on, but when you moved stuff, you might have hit me off or something, whatever. But it got said what I was gonna say.
Okay. Counselor Glennon?
Yeah, mine was the answer too.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. I did have I just came back to me, but I was gonna ask you.
Okay,
Can I hit
Counselor
that
Lennon.
again? Do I need to hit?
You don't need to hit it
Okay.
again.
Talking about the videos being kept for about 5 years, 3 years, if that's what we decide. Why is that any different than the recorder itself? We only keep those so many days, those tapes. And that, the reason,
I think we, again, I don't know how long we keep the tapes, but I think we got a pretty good supply of the tapes.
well, I think at a previous council, maybe not this council, but Mr. Hamill, you might have been on that council at that time, where there was discussion because of the cost of storing them, the cost of keeping them, and everything else, that we decided, or the council decided, that we'd only keep them for X number period of time. And it certainly wasn't 3 years, but
That
now,
was the planning board and it was a year.
no, I think it was something to do with this.
Well, why don't,
We did the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
why don't we,
That's
why
why I'm a little confused, and the videotapes are bigger and bulker, a lot more bulk than the little tapes.
well,
would
they're
be.
now DVDs.
Oh,
DVDs.
CDs, yeah.
So why don't we do this? Maybe we direct staff to propose a policy for adoption on length of record keeping for the
I think we already
meetings.
have something like that. We have an ordinance on it.
Let's
Yeah, and we'll
figure
get
it
it
out
out
and see
for
if we
you.
need to
Yep.
revise it.
Yep.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on up. Let's see. Number 15, letter of support for the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard. There is a letter requesting us from the mayor of Portsmouth to ask us to write to our state senators and state representatives in support of a bill to appropriate $100,000 from the state to support the Seacoast Shipyard Association, which is trying to advocate for keeping the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard open. So the question before us is, do we want to send a letter stating such to Representatives Abbott, Gilbert, and the new one, Moody, Marcia Moody? Councilor Wolford Hamel.
Yes, I move to do whatever it takes to get these letters of support up to Concord.
Okay.
Because that's probably, well,
I'll second
that's my motion.
Okay. Councilor Wolford Hamel makes a motion to write the letters of support to our delegation.
I'll second it.
It was already seconded by Councilor Morrison.
Thank you.
That's okay. Is there any discussion? Councilor Foster.
I know this is going to be political suicide, as they say. I really have a problem with supporting this. Talking to some of the people up in Concord, they don't seem to think that it's going to do much good, to be honest. We already have, the state of New Hampshire already has a lot of political clout in Washington. And if our current senators and congressmen cannot get this done, $100,000 is not going to help. And $100,000 being paid to lobbyists and what have you is, I feel, isn't going to help. So, just throwing my 2 cents in. I know Will's going to come and talk to me again.
Councilor Wolford Hamel, and then Councilor Caprioli.
Yeah, I just learned, they broadcasted it today, that whatever means ends up in Washington is not going to be. Whatever representation, the New England states are not going to be represented.
There's no
Represented.
There's no New England representatives on the committee
Yeah.
that's been assigned, which is not a good sign.
It's not a good thing at all. So, you know, there's many people leaving here in the morning to earn their pay, that leaving Newmarket to earn their wages in Portsmouth. Notice I said Portsmouth. So
New Hampshire.
if this is the only thing we can do, I don't think it's money down the drain. That's it.
Any other comments? Oh, yeah, Councilor Caprioli, I'm sorry.
What $100,000, Councilor Foster?
I'm sorry?
You said something about $100,000.
Yes, they're looking to get the state to appropriate $100,000 for the Save the Shipyard.
Okay.
Which is less than
Oh, yeah, all right.
10 cents a person in the state. One way to look at it. All right, seeing no further discussion, call the roll on the motion to write the letter in support.
Councilor Jerry Hamel.
Aye.
Councilor Caprioli.
Aye.
Councilor Morrison.
Aye.
Councilor Hamel. Will Hamel. Councilor Glennon.
Aye.
Councilor Foster.
Nay.
Councilor Hart.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, along the same lines, I handed out during our recess an action bulletin from the LGC, Local Government Center. We've discussed this in the past, in fact, the last 2 years. Public Service of New Hampshire, their utility poles and lines are all subject to local property taxation. Verizon has an exemption, which is acted on about every 2 years by the legislature, extending that exemption. The exemption was started several years ago. I don't know exactly how long ago, but localities used to have the ability to tax these poles and improvements on our public easements.
We've discussed this before, and I think we voted to support the bill, didn't we?
Yes, you did. Now, what we're asking here, and this is important, I'm going to be attending a meeting Friday on this too, if you could, call your local representatives, call your local senator,
Senator Hassan.
Yep.
Hassan.
and express your concern for this, because it certainly means a lot of money to all the localities, but to us, it's in excess of $100,000 in tax revenue. that spells relief for some other people.
100 grand.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody, make those phone calls tomorrow if you think it's a good idea. All right, we on to number 16?
Can you do it on this?
17.
Isn't that what it's saying? You could do it.
No, that's more information, I think, on it.
Yes. Enough.
16? What?
17.
No, it's 16. Oh, 17.
Oh, it depends on
17.
which number, sorry.
You're on 17 on the amended.
You are on the 17th.
Okay.
Could I ask you, Mr. Chairman, for something else? The fire department and Public Works have been organizing the open house, and I just want to share with you some of the information and get your blessings.
Sure.
April 16th will be the open house for the new Public Works facility. There will be refreshments served. Everyone is invited, including the council. They also, they voted, the fire department membership voted on a dedication of the facility, the firehouse facility, to the credit of Herb Philbrick. He has over 60 years of firefighter service. He was in this community as a volunteer. He's retired 3 times from the service. He's well known. They would like to have your blessing on that. And as far as the Public Works facility, they, crew and several of the people in the community that Rick polled were overwhelmingly in support of recommending the dedication of the new Public Works facility to Richmond G. Walker. He was one of the longest-serving Public Works superintendents in Newmarket, 24 years. And as I understand it, there was a time he actually housed the equipment or operated the equipment out of on his farm. So again, I think that overwhelmingly these recommendations should be endorsed, and I would hope that you would, and they would accordingly order the plaques and proceed.
Would you like to make a motion regarding this?
Is that in writing?
Hmm?
Is that in writing? Their
Memos?
request?
Yeah,
The
Councilor Caparelli?
request, yes, it's just a one-liners.
I'll make the
No, I just
motion
wanted
to approve, I guess, the Public Works and Fire Department's dedications for the new fire station in Public Works.
Second.
All right. Councilor Caprioli and Councilor Wilfred Hamel makes the motion to accept the recommendations on the nominations of the dedication for the fire and public works buildings. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilor Jerry Hamel?
Aye.
Councilor Caparoli?
Aye.
Councilor Morrison?
Aye.
Councilor Will Hamel?
Aye.
Councilor Glennon?
Aye.
Councilor Foster?
Aye.
Councilor Hart?
Aye.
I just want to indulge you in one other thing if I can. I did forward to you
Why doesn't he put that on the agenda?
I did forward to you earlier this week, as soon as I had it, I had received it, draft copy of the engineering phase and contract for professional services from Underwood for the Wadley Falls Interceptor and Pumping Station, which has been funded through CDBG and DES. Originally, the staff thought I had full authority to sign this, but reviewing the document, I did not. So basically, this, if it isn't approved, will delay financing of the Wadley Falls Elderly Housing Project, which we have scheduled for groundbreaking April 1st. So it's crucial to their financing. Financiers, before they sign off, want to know that we have authorized and are proceeding with this project.
Can I see it?
Hmm? It is in the total amount of $55,000 for construction services, and the bid phase, all of the phases, spelled right there.
And this is the revenue for this is coming from the CDBG, so it's not costing us.
CDBG and DES. This project will probably qualify for 30% grant from DES.
On top, in
Yes.
addition, or as a portion of that.
Yep.
Someone like to make a motion regarding this?
Make a motion, we authorize the town administrator to sign the documents for the receiving, is it receiving the CDBG funds?
No, this is for the Wadley Falls engineering contract and construction services.
That.
Contract with Underwood Engineers.
Yep.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? And we've completed the acquisition of the property?
We have the PNS, and we are in the process of getting a subdivision created.
Okay.
Or everything is proceeding.
Okay.
Is the town gonna own
Any other comments or questions?
It's infrastructure.
Okay, please call the roll.
Counselor Jerry Hamel. Counselor Caprioli.
Aye.
Counselor Morrison.
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Glennon.
Aye.
Counselor Foster.
Aye.
Counselor Hart.
Aye. No more indulgences.
You really are super.
Okay, the next agenda item I'm going to recuse myself from and participate as a member of the audience. So Scott, if you can take over. No, we could do that non-public tonight.
Push it.
I can help explain it.
If there's no more business, do I have a motion to adjourn?
No, we still have a non-public, don't we?
Yeah.
Mr. Hart, you may proceed.
Okay. I'm only speaking about this because I didn't expect we'd get this far tonight. So I told the Trust for Public Land not to come. But they sent a letter, as you see in the packet. The reason I'm recusing myself is because I work for the Rockingham Land Trust, who is a project partner with the Trust for Public Land and the town of Newfields to acquire and protect about 330-ish acres of land in Newfields and Newmarket, known as the Piscasset Greenway, Newfields Greenway. And the letter before you asks the town of Newmarket to consider something that would help the town of Newfields and the Rockingham Land Trust and the Trust for Public Land complete the project by allowing the Wigan Farm Grapevine Hill property to be considered as a match to the funding and the project in Newfields and Newmarket. So to explain what that means, it's and I would suggest that if the council is open to this idea, that be discussed tonight, and then invite the Trust for Public Land to come in and speak more specifically about it. But for the project in Newfields to be successful, there's efforts underway to secure additional federal funds through the Coastal and Estuarine Land Conservation Program, KELP for short. That requires a 1-to-1 match. So, for example, if you needed $3 million of that federal funding, you need $3 million of match. In this case, the project value of the whole project is about $7.8 million. And we're seeking a total of $4 million of federal funding. So we need a project worth $8 million to get that $4 million of federal grant. Since we don't have that project value in this property all by itself, we need to find match properties that have occurred within the last 3 years or are going to occur shortly that can be applied and agreed to that they are matching this application. The Grapevine Hill, Tuttle Swamp, Wigan Farm property was conserved in September of 2003. So as long as this property in Newfields closes by September of 2006, it's eligible as a match. And my understanding, and I'm not an expert on this, but my understanding is all that would have to happen is the town of Newmarket, the town council, would vote to authorize it to be applied as a match, and then we'd need to get Fish and Game and the state to support this as well as probably the other funding partners. And additional language would be placed onto the conservation easement and the deeds that states that this was used as a match to the Coastal Estuarine Land Conservation Program. Something to that extent. And my understanding, it doesn't further restrict the property, but it provides this interest to the federal government, which they already have because of the North American Wetland Conservation Act funds that we did use. So does that make any sense? Because that was a lot of information just to drop in. But that's basically what's being asked for consideration. Not action tonight. Doesn't have to be acted on, immediately. It's something to consider and see if there's a willingness to look further into it.
Administrator Dixon?
Yes, I have spoke with Mr. Wolf regarding this project. I've also had the opportunity to speak with Brian and a few other people on it. Basically, I see it as a win-win proposition for you. There is 16 acres of this property also that's located in Newmarket. It also, as you remember and recall, looking at the map of the area, and if you look at that tract of land, if you have that piece of land included in the puzzle, then there's a linkage, complete linkage, all the way from the Lee Town line to the Exeter, through Newfields, through Newmarket, Newfields, and into Exeter. So it really creates a nice corridor. So I don't see any downside to it, and that's what I was looking for. So that's my 2 cents.
Councilor Caparelli by 2 seconds.
I just have a question. It's really curiosity question. You said they put on the deed for the Tuttle Swamp Wigan property that it was used for a match for this property. Does that mean it takes away that property's matching abilities for future projects in Newmarket?
It would, yes. The short answer is yes, it would eliminate that property as a match to other federal funds. But I think the three-year window for kelp is pretty much the maximum there ever is to go backwards.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I mean, I've been I'm on the Open Space Committee, and we have several projects that we're working on, and I don't think any of them are going to be in that position.
Yeah,
But
and it was really just a curiosity
it's a good question.
Just for knowledge for
Yeah.
later in life or whenever I may need to know that stuff. My second question is, and you need to use the whole property, not portion of it, is that correct? Because
That's
of
a
the
good.
dollar amount you have to get to.
Well, Newmarket acquired that property for $1.265 million. That was, if I remember the numbers correctly, about 800,000 or so was from non-federal sources. So that's the money that's available as a match.
Okay.
That's more than enough.
Yep, okay.
And so whether you could apportion it, I'm not sure. And we might not need the match too, but we'll have to explore a lot of options. And this one would take some time because changing the deeds would require a vote of the council and would require a vote of the executive council of the state.
Okay.
Which, that's a process right there.
Councilor Jerry Ham.
Yeah, I think we ought to do whatever we can for Newfields. They're the town that's been working so hard to allow us to take their place on the railroad bridge on New Road, and I really think that we should do whatever we can to help them out here, because they've been working so hard at trying to get us the okay on that bridge.
I will share with them, because I'll be honest and say I have met with the Board of Selectmen of Newfields a lot in my job with Land Trust, and that issue has come up just peripherally, and I've communicated to them some of the frustration that we have. So that might be something to consider, although I'm not sure if there would be any progress on it. But I understand, Jerry, your sentiment.
Thank you, Councilor Ham. Councilor Morrison.
Going back to what you were telling Lorianne, that 3-year window for kelp, is that the maximum period that land would be taken out of consideration for federal grants, or is it just forever?
Once the property uses a match, it's not eligible again, is my understanding. And like the state's program called LCHIP allows, like if I donated an easement on my land this year, so I own land, I don't own any land, but if I donated an easement and I wrote a letter to the organization that received the easement and said I want this to be used as a match to an LCHIP project in Newmarket, that letter would qualify the property for 3 years, I think it is. So most programs allow a certain window, but beyond that, or once it's used as a match to a certain program, you can't use it to another one. So if we wouldn't be able to use it to another federal program.
Right.
Councilor Wilford Hamel.
Yeah, what Jerry mentioned, neighbors working together, was the main reason why the Conservation Commission is considering a donation.
Administrator Dixon.
Yes, I think that this is the most liberal rollback of eligibility of a match that I've seen, and I think it's basically because of the nature of the program. They want to encourage it. 3 years is a long window. So it's really the most liberal opportunity, I think, in any program to use match, and we're going to lose the opportunity, what, 6 more months? It'll be 3 years.
It'll be 3 years in 2006
Okay, yes, okay.
for Newmarket,
Year and
for that
3
property.
Yeah, year and 6 months.
We signed the option agreement with him in 2002, but we didn't actually own the property till 2003.
The deal wasn't cut, right.
Any more questions for Mr. Hart?
So if I left here tonight and told the Trust for Public Land that there was a willingness to explore it, that would be accurate?
Want to do a straw poll? Do you want to just, yes?
Just vote on it.
Does someone want to make a I don't think it requires a motion, really, does it?
Well, I feel like, I just want to make, I mean, that's what I heard from the questions and comments. I know there's a little concern from Jerry, and I understand that.
Is there a motion?
I'll make
That's
that
fine.
motion
Well,
if you need a motion.
We don't need one, do we?
He's saying we do.
I think it would be nice if he had one.
May
for the
be
few.
disputed.
Oh.
Always nice to have a motion, know you got the authority.
So Wilfred, your motion would be something along the lines of, Mr. Hart could go back to the Trust for Public Land and tell them that we would be interested in offering,
Favorably disposed.
favorably disposed to offering the Tuttle Swamp Wiggins Farm Conservation Area as a possible match for the kelp-funded Greenway project.
Yes.
Do you have that? Do you have a second?
Second.
Councilor Morrison? Further discussion? Councilor Hamel? No. Call the roll, please.
Counselor Jerry Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Caparoli.
Aye.
Counselor Morrison.
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Glennon.
Aye.
Counselor Foster.
Aye. Welcome back.
We should all be patting ourselves on the back for doing 17 items in one 3 hour and 15-minute period. So I'm going to pack the agendas from now on so we have short discussions.
Just don't get used to it, huh?
That helps when you come in public.
We do have a need to go into non-public briefly for real estate. It should not take a long time because there's not any specific action being requested. So may I have a motion to go into non-public for a real estate transaction?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Counselor Foster seconds. Discussion? Please call the roll.
Counselor Jerry Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Caparoli.
Aye.
Counselor Morrison.
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Glennon.
Aye.
Counselor Foster.
Aye.
Counselor Hart.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Um,
We'll make sure